Hello, good evening, and welcome to the forum from the LFC Daytrippers. Do not adjust your screens. This is me and Keith. 2 hour special show tonight. First off, it's going to be myself and Keith talking to everybody for about an hour with regards to the transfer window and the closing of the international window by 11 p.m. tonight. Second hour, you will have Phil, Andy, Dicko and Neilo, and they're going to be talking, keeping you up to date with the transfers as it goes right up until 11. And then, of course, you will have some topics that they want to talk about as well. That's the way the forum works, isn't it? Keith, we have an hour to ourselves. It's quite romantic, I think.
It is.
A few candles, intimacy, all that sort of stuff. It's been a quiet day, I think, on the transfer deadline day. I presume Sky are trying to make as much as they can of it. But I want to start off with us. And, you know, we all expected it to be a quiet enough day anyway. Gazaniga, of course, was tenuously linked today because of what happened at Villa Park last night. I'm going to try my best not to talk about that. But the interesting thing for me is, you know, you look at Grujic, you look at Shaqiri, of course, Karius went out on loan to Union Berlin. You have Wilson, and it looks like none of them three will move. That's a surprise. Has to be.
It is. For the squad makeup thing, and another, before we actually get started, my camera, I'm in a different location and my camera is all over the place, so it looks like I'm gazing at you while we're doing this show as well, so it's a bit of a mad scene, this one.
I like it.
It's different, isn't it? It's different. It's brutal, you know. It's the transfer window is the transfer window. We're not going to see too much happening. Gazaniga got linked, but the reality, were we ever going to sign a keeper based on a bad performance last night? Do you know what I mean? Like Liverpool, if they wanted to replace Adrian, I think they'd have had that lined up well before today. Yeah. So it was always going to be a quiet one, I think, for us. Not that people aren't happy about that, but you know, it is what it is. Just have to deal with it and accept it. Yeah,
just before we go on, Umar Khalid has asked twice, Gav, your views on Aston Villa loss. It was a disgrace, a disgraceful loss. There's no other words for it. The goalkeeper makes a mistake and we're terrible from then on in. And they get a couple of deflected goals, but we're way too open. I don't think the forward line worked properly. I think the midfield was so open and the back line looked shaky as anything. No one stood up yesterday. No leaders yesterday. Andy Robertson put it right. Lost every second ball. Their passing wasn't on it. We had chances. A couple of decisions went against us that may have went another way. But listen, I've always said it. Liverpool are probably the best team in the world at reacting to something, and I've every faith that they will react to this. It's an absolute freak result. I give credit to Aston Villa. I thought they were excellent. But Liverpool helped them along the way in a massive, massive way. But you may have concerns about if you're missing a couple of players. These players that are meant to be mentality monsters and bringing back up an amazing squad didn't show it yesterday. But I'd say I'd be very surprised if you see a performance like that again from Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, I'm being honest with you. But that's how it goes. What can you do about it? You take it on the chin.
But even onto that, Gav, it was the first team regulars that stunk it out yesterday. Do you know what I mean? It was
apart from Adrian,
obviously, but it was the three at the back forward, Pony. The three midfielders were Dort and Bobby was shy. Do you know what I mean? Like it was. Yeah. It wasn't like it was we're blaming Minamino and we're blaming fucking Yotta. It was the key players and obviously Adrian. And in fairness, Adrian breeds that when he makes a howler in the first few minutes, it breeds into the rest.
It does breed it, but you can go at individuals. Like yesterday, you can pick them all. The vast majority of them you could pick and tear that game apart, like, you know. And it has been done. Adrian, Trent being exposed, Gomez looking very poor, VVD not being what he usually is, the midfield not working hard. You can pick individuals out all over the place, but as a team, they didn't stand up. They didn't work hard enough. They didn't press. And even when it looked like winner on it here, they didn't revert into some sort of way of playing where they could limit Aston Villa and maybe, you know, get over this storm that was happening in the game and get out the other side of it. But look, that happens. It's a freak result. I'm not one bit happy about it. But at the same time, you look and you say, would you expect a reaction? Yeah, absolutely expect a reaction. And Liverpool is still in the league. So we'll have to wait and see. loads of Anders Dooner says any news on new players. So we're discussing them before Rajiv, I think it was Rajiv, asked us about the Aston Villa game. So the goalkeeper team was just come up this morning. It was easy press, wasn't it, Keith? Link a goalkeeper. I think he's been linked with Everton as well today. And I'm not surprised he's been linked away with them Spurs signing Joe Hart. But I can't see a goalkeeper happening for Liverpool, and I think Everton are now looking at a backup goalkeeper from Rome. They're looking for somebody to push Pickford, and I think that's a very wise move from Everton.
Either looking at Romero off Man
United as well, yeah, and I believe his wife, Romero's wife, has had a little go on Instagram or one of the social media platforms. So, fair play, standing up for our man. Stand by your man, as the song says.
Tammy Wynette.
Tammy Wynette, there you go. See, Keith, he knows his music as well as his football. What was I going to say to you? So, but the three not going out, Keith. Like Grujic was linked with Mönchengladbach. Then it came up today. It was Werder Bremen, and then it looked like it collapsed because of his wage demands. Maybe Wilson. It looked like Burnley, but then Burnley pulled out because I reckon they went. Well, the money probably wasn't too bad, but I reckon Wilson's wanted a decent clout to go there, especially with 4 years left on a Liverpool deal. And Shaqiri left out of the squad against, was it Arsenal? He was left out of the squad against.
Yeah, it was Arsenal.
And we all thought he was in Italy discussing, it might have been Roma or Lazio, but it looks like come the end of it, these three aren't going to move. Could there be a last minute move here, Keith? Even loan deals?
I think if anything it will be loans, but I don't even see that. Liverpool have put themselves in a bit of a corner now with their squad, as we've said previously about the non-homegrown players. Harry Wilson, could still see him going, to be honest. Championship, possibly Grujic as well might end up getting a loan to the Championship for 6 months or 3 months till January. You can't have Grujic in the squad at the moment. I think we're 2 players over that.
Yeah.
Hurt, one book. Hurt that signed Guendouzi. He's on my list.
That is unbelievable.
What, that they signed him or the Arsenal so let him go?
A bit of both.
It's only on loan.
Yeah. A bit of both, because he was linked with Lyon in a move which would see go the other way, or whatever way. I think that's the right way to say it. Yeah. But there was talk that the Arsenal were going to give him an X amount of money for Our, and then that went quiet. And then I was like, he's had a falling out clearly with Mikel Arteta. Then the word came around that they patched things up, and I thought he'd be a really good player for Arsenal this season because of the players they've had. Now we get on to another player in a few minutes that Arsenal are looking at, but for him to go on loan is a bit strange for me.
It is. I mean, he's a young player. There must have been some falling out for them to get rid of him, because the one thing about him, and it looks like Torres is gone as well to Atletico Madrid, it looked like he was tenacious in midfield, and Arsenal needed a bit of tenacity in there. They needed a bit of bite. Now, I know El Neni has come back into the fold there. Xhaka seems to be out from the cold as well. They've both been there and done that and stunk the place out in previous incarnations. So I don't know, what they're expecting that Guendouzi can't do it. Like I said, it must have been a hell of a fall. Now, I know there was the whole thing with Brighton and he seemed the dirtiest bib. But it's a weird one. And I know Jono was saying that Arsenal are getting Partey so they don't need Guendouzi. Well, I mean, Partey could get injured tomorrow. You know what I mean? You need players.
Yeah, so Jono does say that Arsenal getting Partey, and of course Torreira looks like he's going the other way on loan. There was mixed signals coming out today with regards to that transfer. It looked like Arsenal were making an offer and they were going to give Torreira as part of the deal on loan for a year, and I think Arsenal didn't want that. Or Atletico didn't want it, and Arsenal just bypassed Atletico and went straight to La Liga with the buyout clause. Yeah. And it looks like, I don't even know if Torreira's going to go now, because Arsenal just don't want them to be part of the deal. They want a permanent deal out of it. I'm not too sure what way that's going to go. But just on Partey, I think he's a fantastic signing for Arsenal, I have to be honest, Keith. Yeah.
I mean, we've spoke on several shows. Well, we spoke previously about we can't get our head around Arsenal, what you do with an Arsenal. But they seem to be addressing that. Arteta is doing the right things, the bastard. But Partey is the clear one that they need. He's... And I'm going to be honest with you, Gav. I think Partey's been overrated a bit now because people are going to expect him to be the best midfielder in Europe going in to fix Arsenal. Thomas Partey is an excellent player, excellent midfielder, and he is what Arsenal need. And from a, take me Liverpool hat off, I would like to see him going in there and doing well. I'd like to see him doing well in the Premier League. So I think he can. I think he has the makeup to do that.
Yeah.
But, it's a strange one. It's just, they done it. They left it till the last minute, paying the release clause. Why didn't they pay the release clause 10 weeks ago?
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to work something around the whole transfer, and in the end, they're just going to have to bite the bullet and pay the release clause instead. They were probably looking at getting him a bit cheaper. Torres goes on loan for a year with an obligation to buy. Atletico don't want that, so Arsenal go and bang something else out and say, "Listen, we're just going to have to go and do this," and that's the end of it. What I would say is, and we spoke about Arsenal. We love speaking about Arsenal because they're intriguing to me anyway, and. For me, I can't see them playing a 5 at the back with Partey playing. I'm being honest with you. I think he's definitely going to look for him to be playing in a midfield role, very similar to what we do with Fabinho. He sits, he anchors, he wins balls, and he looks to get creative people around him, or workhorses around him. The likes of a Xhaka, or if Xhaka wants to put the time in, or whoever else, if he wants to play wherever he wants, just to make it functional and rely on his fullbacks, because Tierney's very good going forward. Bellerin is good going forward. I just don't like him the other way. And then of course you have got a front three that are really, really good with decent backup. So, but Partey to me looks like an excellent signing. Kevin Sullivan says it's let me see. It's one win. I'm glad we got out of the way. Arsenal, I presume Partey in front of a back three will do well for them. I think he will, because
a rocket of a shot as well he has.
But it's not even that. I think they're just going to simplify what they're going to do in midfield. They're not going to make it too. They're not going to make it too fancy. They're not, because Arteta come up, learned a lot of what he done at Man City. And Man City do things a lot differently to Liverpool. But I see him shaping this team more like Liverpool than I do Man City. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. He's not going to. Liverpool dominate a ball because of the absolute quality they have. But I think Arsenal are going to go a way where they're going to say, look, let's make midfield really functional. Protect the back, the two centre halves. Let our fullbacks go forward, and our front three will do the talking for us as well. So Partey looks like it's done and dusted to Arsenal. Apparently, I think Melissa Reddy was going on about him earlier as well to Arsenal, but apparently Leon said that won't be happening. That's one player I think Liverpool should be all over now.
Well,
all over like an absolute rash.
The way that's shaping up, Gav, I mean, we will probably be losing Gini and Milner next summer.
Yeah.
2 and 2 equals 4 on this one for me. Players that don't move, that we've been linked with, that we mightn't have had a position for at the moment, that haven't moved now, be bleeding red flags all over them with Liverpool. We won't talk about them all, but certainly Aouar is one of them that I think Liverpool will be taking a look at. There'll be other clubs, City will be all over him as well, but
but City could have been all over him this year,
and I'm surprised they didn't.
So am I.
In the midfield, I think it's something that they could have done. I mean, unless they pull something out of their bleeding arse now, City, they've done fuck all.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get on to them in a few minutes, but Aouar at that price, 50 million euros. Yeah, I think it was around that. That's nothing to see. That's not, and in a position what they could do with, because you've seen Rodri and Fernandinho not working correctly, in my opinion. They've lost David Silva. Bernardo Silva hasn't started the season great.
He seems to be off the boil.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole Barcelona Messi thing has got to him and maybe one or two others that were being used as make weights. Owen Burke says, didn't Aouar say he was staying for another year? Yeah, I thought I read that as well.
He did, yeah.
So
came out of a meeting with Oulas or something, and he said to the staff that he's not going anywhere. So it looks like he's going to be hanging around there.
Yeah, John O reckons Aouar and Sancho incoming next summer. They're the two players Liverpool should be absolutely swarming all over, especially when you see what United have done with him. Any chance United signing him, I think, is dead in the water. Yeah. Kev O'Sullivan still imminent though. Kev O'Sullivan, PSG linked late for Aouar but left it. Is he on a promise elsewhere? I'm wondering that. Because, and I'm also wondering about Sancho. I'm wondering if, and I'm not saying only Liverpool, but I'm wondering if somebody else has come to him, to Sancho, and said, if your transfer happens, all the best. But if there's a chance it doesn't, we're interested, and we're interested for next season. It'll do you no harm in Dortmund. It does no harm to Dortmund either, because they'll get more money next summer anyway, in my opinion.
Exactly.
When
or
things
they'll get
clear
at
up.
least what they would have got this summer. You know what I mean? Like it's a no lose really for them, isn't it? And they get to keep him for another year. And he'd be playing Champions League, and he'd be playing in the top league, challenging for honours. You know, it's a sensible decision by Sancho not to go there, unless it does happen in the last hour, right?
It could. It absolutely could, because we've seen stranger things happen. I'm being honest with you. We have seen stranger things. Jono says PSG wanted our on loan. Aula said no thanks. Yeah, and somebody else said they're pricks to deal with Leon. They are, but they're well within their rights to be pricks. They're their players, you know. And over the years we wanted Liverpool to be pricks, and at times when they weren't, you know.
True.
And we got plenty of I suppose credit for being pricks over Coutinho. And, you know, we were pricks over Coutinho because we'd every right to be. He was their player. And we weren't going to be bullied by Barcelona. And look where that one worked out. Let me see. X86 guy says, reliable Bundesliga journalist at 2 clubs. One from Spain, one from England. Told him they'll be in for him next year. If that's right, for me, it's Madrid and Liverpool.
Yeah.
I can't see how Barcelona can promise you to be in for you next year, because they are an absolute shit show. They can't even get 25 million quid together to sign Depay.
It could be, yeah, I know what you're saying, like, but Barca might be looking at next year and saying, right, Messi is gone, and we have to sign someone. Like Madrid, automatically you think Madrid, but they're going to be all over Mbappe as well next summer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Mbappe
that's
is
true.
Mbappe's out PSG, and the links are us in Madrid. You know, so there's going to be some big names up there. So it'll be very interesting. Hold your powder for this season and see what you can get in next summer.
Absolutely, because I think it's going to be massively different next summer. Owenbog says the Arsenal mascot must have been on some money to get rid of him to pay for Partey. Jesus, it was bleeding desperate, isn't it? Yeah. Streamlining.
What do you do?
Like, it's not even they let him go, right? It's the whole, like, who is he being mascot for? There's no player, nobody in the ground, but that's fair enough. But to say it's part of a streamlining process, the fella's like, what money is he on? Do you know what I mean?
He must be a high earner, you never know. Arsenal, they're not the best club in the world.
Yeah, Kieran B is upset. He says, Jesus are early. No, Kieran, this is an extra special hour you're getting. The actual show, the real show, starts at 10 o'clock. So there you go. The lads will be witches at 10. Now, just to let
I've heard
know,
United are going to make a late bid for Gunnar Suarez before the window closes.
They might
don't get Cavani over the line
and give him number 5 jersey for when the other fella's imprisoned in Greece. But what I was going to say to you, we're trying to keep up to date with anything that's going on. If you see anything going on, whether that's on Sky or the BBC website or wherever it is, lash it in the chat and we'll throw it up and we talk about it over the next 40 minutes or so. During the actual forum show, there's some great topics the lads want to talk about. They include Andy and his hot takes. So basically hot takes that he reads on Twitter that really annoy him. Phil wants to talk about how he hates football. No surprise there. Dicko wants to talk about transfer deadline days of old and how they go about and how they happen and the whole hysteria about them. And Neilo wants to talk about backup goalkeepers. But during that hour, myself, I'll be in the background looking up all the transfer stuff as the hour draws closer as opposed to 11 o'clock. And if anything happens, we get it on screen. But listeners and viewers can also help by lashing them in there as well and keeping us going. Manchester United, Keith. So we've all had a bit of a chuckle about the Sancho thing. And throughout it all, I did say, and I've said it a few times, I felt they get him. Because as much as, you know, there was so much being made up of, they've agreed with the player, they've agreed with this, they've agreed with that, and they hadn't. There's nothing being agreed. The simple thing here is if Borussia Dortmund receive a bid for Jadon Sancho, they must declare it because, you know, they're floating on the stock market. They have to do it to their shareholders. And nothing's come out, bar Sky telling you that United offered up to 100 million euros, 80 plus 20. And Borussia have said from the very start, probably 10, 12 weeks ago, listen, it's 108 million pounds or 120 million, and we want it all in one go, or it's not happening. They've been very, very steadfast on that. Now, I did see Twitter today. The guy's name's gone out of my head. He's on Twitter and he does stuff for German football. I can't remember his name.
But
No, he's an English fella. But he was saying that was August the 10th was actually the deadline on Jadon Sancho, and if they didn't get it done by August 10th, it was done and dusted. So
But Gav, that's what Dortmund have come out and said, and being steadfast. The deadline is gone. There's no chance of this deal. He's not getting sold. And yet the media went and ran. Oh no, Sancho wants to go. Oh, Sancho's not in the squad. Sancho's not on the bench. Sancho's not this. Sancho's not that. Everything, when you read, if you sit back and look at the Sancho deal all along, it never looked like he was agitating for a move. It never looked like there was anything happening with United. It looked like it was all bullshit, bluster and talk.
I have a feeling United felt like that, and it goes back to the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quotes where he said, "We feel we can,
that shot them in the
we can exploit the market." Yeah. All right, and he shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't have never said that, and he shouldn't have even went close to saying that. And I have a feeling United felt they just go in and bully Borussia Dortmund into, we're going to give you 60 million quid up front, 20 million in add-ons and 20 million on extra add-ons, and you'll get your 100 million and you'll take it and you'll be happy. And Borussia got wind of this very quickly and went, hold on, you think we're going to be the club you're going to exploit? It's not happening. As big as Bayern Munich are in Germany, Borussia Dortmund are a huge club and they're so fucking good in the market that they've plenty of money. They're not scratching around for money. They've plenty of it. But Chris Williams, Ramez Khalil says Chris Williams. That's the guy that reported it today. He's on Twitter. He's good for German football. But like when you look at it, and then Donny van der Beek, great signing for United.
Yeah, very good.
There was talk of his agent getting a bit tetchy because he's not starting games other than the League Cup. But that's a good signing. But then you see Tellez looks like he's done today, which is another good one.
Is done. Yeah, that's
done. Luke Shaw, not good enough, and young Brandon Williams, he might just
bit away, isn't he?
Yeah, it might be a little bit away, or he may be just thrown in there too early and it's caught up with him a bit. But I think he's a good player, I really do. And then of course you've Edison Cavani, which I think he's a good player, Keith. I think he's a good signing for United. But everybody
not a player they need.
But that's the thing, because everyone's looking at it going, you're signing him, but you need this. Whereas you actually just take it on face value. Edison Cavani for 2 years on, I've seen somewhere between 100 and 200 grand. I'm not too sure. Yeah. I would reckon it's probably 100 and bonuses on top. But he's a good signing for 2 years for me, for Manchester United. Because in fairness, they go on about Martial, he's quite streaky. Rashford can be the same at times. The young lad, Mason Greenwood, very, very young, And when you look at it, Gallo is a stopgap. He's a good experienced player that's good in the box, and he'd take a bit of heat off players. But on face value, that's a good signing. But on the whole package, it's a bit mad, And I don't know. They didn't even linked with Ismaili Sarr, linked with different Ousmane Dembele, and nothing's really kind of happened, No. All maybe apply to get Sancho. I'm not too sure, but overall, I think if United come out with this with Edison Cavani, Tellez and Donny van der Beek, I don't think it's a great window for them. I really don't.
No, it's not a great window because you have to take it all into context as well, Gav. Bringing in Edison Cavani, and Edison, the thing about Edison Cavani, and you touched on, he's a good player. I agree with you. He is a good player. He's a good, he's suit there front three because you mentioned Martial, Rashford and Greenwood, and they can all play wide and they can all play in through the centre. And Cavani plays wide as well. Even though he's a big unit, he plays out wide an awful lot of the time. Maybe not now at this stage of his career, but he had got that in him. It's just the fact that they went and done it on the last day of the transfer window for a free agent who's been available. He hasn't really figured much for PSG for the last season. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they're going out and they're taking a prime Edison Cavani here. They're going and getting them when no one else would touch them because of agent fees and all. Atletico Madrid, and there was another team, Atletico and someone else pulled out, said they wouldn't touch it because the agent fees were sky high, 10 million.
Yeah.
A lot of dough.
It is a lot of dough. Ella Tracy says Gavin. First word is Gavin in this message, which is quite worrying, considering only my mother and my 7-year-old daughter, when she's trying to annoy me, calls me Gavin. But anyway, thanks for the message, Ella. She says he's a terrible signing for them. Started 14 games in a year, injury prone, and the league is too fast for him. They're all very good points.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is, Ella, though, is that he's a different player to what they have. He's way more experienced than what they have. Yeah. And he takes the load off. Right, he might not be fit for the whole season, but if they get 20, 25 appearances out of him this season, it's taken the heat off the likes of Rashford, Martial and Mason Greenwood, who for me are really good players, but I don't think they have the presence to be the main man at Manchester United. That's just my opinion. And I mean the main man over the course of a whole season where you put a season on somebody's back. And I think behind it all, I think United know that they can't place it on somebody's back. That's why they tried to sign Sancho. But Cavani, there's injury doubts, there's age, there's a lot of money. But I think it's something different. And listen, time might tell, he might be turning out to be another Falcao, and fingers crossed he does. But me just looking at it thinking, it's just a different type of player that they're trying to get, and let's see how it goes. It does look a bit panic stations. I'm not going to lie to you. But that's just for me. BBC reports Traore to Manchester United, done deal, 30 million. Who's this Traore? Which Traore?
I'm assuming that's Diallo, is it? It's Amad Diallo. They're after signing off Atlanta, a winger.
Amad Traore signed for United.
Yeah, unless it's Amad Traore Diallo. It's Amad Diallo. I'm looking at the tweet here from Man United. We've reached an agreement with Atalanta for the future transfer of Amad Diallo, subject to a medical. So that's a January transfer for an 18-year-old winger. And they're also trying to sign another Uruguayan winger from Penarol. I can't think the name off the top of my head, but
30 million. 30 million.
Yeah.
Wow. Is he good?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. He's not one. I've seen Atlanta a few times and he's never stood out. I couldn't tell you if he's good or not, to be honest with you. I've never really seen too much of him.
Right.
And I've seen Atlanta a few times, and he's in the games I've seen, I've never gone away thinking, Jesus, he looks good.
Yeah. And come here, well, does that put to bed the whole Sancho stuff full stop? Because 30, like, even if they don't get him in January, or even if they don't get him now, it's not a case of we go back from, because have they dirtied that bit that much that they're now going and spending 30 million on a young 18-year-old winger from Atalanta?
Yeah.
Like, that looks to me like the Sancho, any hope, and we did say it, any hope of signing Sancho was in this summer window. If they don't do it, it's not going to happen.
As Ramirez said there, they're also trying to go for Sarr as well, Ismail Sarr. That can be done, I think, after this. That can go into next.
That can go into the next 16th, the 16th. It's an extra 10 days for the domestic window.
But if they were to sign that, then that's the end of Sancho. They've given up. Send an SOS to Terry, because Terry's been telling us how imminent Sancho is, and just, read all the signs. Well, he can't be that imminent if they're looking at scattergunning at wingers. Scattergunning. Ousmane Dembele. We want him on loan. No, he's only available for sale. He won't go on loan. We want him on loan. You can't have him on loan. You can buy him. We want him on loan. Fuck off and just get out.
But would you consider Sarr and say for like this fella's a future transfer? This I've completely forgotten his name already because I've never fucking heard him.
Diallo.
Diallo. Okay, we call him Diallo, right? But do you fair enough. That's a thing down the line. But would you consider Ismail Sarr very similar to Jadon Sancho in style or substance? Because we've all heard about Liverpool wanted such and such a player. It didn't happen. They ended up going for Salah. You know what I mean? They always have similar players that they have a list of. Would you put Sarr in the same bracket as Sancho, style wise?
No, I mean, look, when we were linked with Sarr, I was an advocate of going and signing him. But that was as a backup player, as an option to throw on from the bench. It wasn't as a starting player for Liverpool. And if he's their alternative to Jadon Sancho, it just screams that the planning at Man U is just all over the shop. Yeah. All over the shop.
30 million there, it'd be 40 million on Sarr, wouldn't it? And Dan J says he's hardly played for Atlanta. United have also paid 7 million release clause for the Uruguayan kid that you were speaking about from Penarol. You'll find it in your head in a minute, don't worry about it. Phil is here. Philip, your favourite day of the year? The transfer deadline.
Second favourite day of the year.
What's your first?
My favourite day of the year is Pancake Tuesday. There's not a single day of the year that can beat Pancake Tuesday.
I never thought of Pancake Tuesday, to be honest with you.
I haven't worked Pancake Tuesday in 25 years.
Right, so it's one of those days you look forward to the start of the year when the fixtures come out.
Yeah, I take the day off and I sit at home and I gorge on pancakes for the whole day, making the batter, eating the batter, throwing anything in just to test it out. It's the best ever.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you now. I just buy the ones out of the shop and lash something on them.
That's absolutely disgusting.
Honestly.
What's going on, lads?
I'll tell you what's going on. I have a question for you because loads of stuff's come up here, and I was waiting for you to come on to ask you this, right? And you'll cover it a bit more.
I was too busy watching the restrictions not being put in place in the country.
Oh, don't start me on that place. Okay. But
don't start me.
You'll cover this in more detail, I suppose, on the forum itself. But just quickly, Ella Tracy says, Gavin Keith, honest opinion. I'm going to put this to Phil because he's the fella that stands in the goals with the big gloves on. He said, honest opinion, I'm worried. We should have looked at a keeper today short term. Adrian is going to mess this up. 8 weeks is going to be nervous, she reckons. What's your take on this, Phil? And I don't want you to go into massive detail on because I know he's going to cover it after 10 o'clock, but there's been a lot said about him today, Phil. Let's be fair.
Gav, if I cover it off now, I can literally go to the toilet when the lads are talking about it later on, and I don't need to talk about it then. I'll just put, I'll put a picture up. I watched the Cartman episode, the South Park episode of the pandemic there recently. It was the best ever because it gave some great tips for people who have to do Zoom calls. However, the Adrian situation or whatever we want to call it about it, there's definitely a pandemonium that's setting in today, which is all about reaction to what happened last night. Right? It's pure about reaction to what happened last night. Anyone who doesn't like Adrian for the mistake he made against Atletico Madrid last year has had an opportunity to go absolutely fully overboard on everything that they needed to do. All right? Absolutely fully overboard. The reality is, and I tweeted this earlier on, name the goalkeeper you're going to sign today that's better than Adrian, who's prepared to sit on the bench. Because a lot of the arguments have been, well, you can sign this fella, you can sign that fella. Yeah, but they'll all want to challenge for number ones. If we're looking at the players who are the teams who are talking about signing goalkeepers today, they're not signing backup goalkeepers. They're signing somebody to challenge the incumbent number one. And if you have a problem with your number one, it means that nobody's number one.
A bit like Gazzaniga to Everton.
Yeah, and think about it. Karius and Mignolet. Are we in that situation? We aren't. We have a clear number one here, right? The issue is people are going to understand that the second choice is always going to be the Mignolet level of goalkeeper. Yeah. And Adrian is a Mignolet level of goalkeeper. We saved on wages by sending him to Belgium and brought Adrian in. And it's basically the same standard. And I've always said, if Mignolet was a second choice goalkeeper, you would have lived at that. You would have said, right, he's what you expect. Adrian is a second choice level goalkeeper in a top six club. I've seen loads of things. Look at Romero and Henderson.
Kieran says there, he heard on the Coppish podcast earlier saying Sergio Romero third choice for United. I think it's a good show. But does it come back around? Does it come back around again to Sergio Romero's looking to move to get more game time, and he's not going to get at Liverpool unless Alisson is injured? Is that where we're going? It's the same situation there now as well.
I've also heard mad things like Alisson has made a glass. It'd be very unusual for him suddenly to go from not having any injuries at Roma and Internacional to having lots of injuries at Liverpool. He seems to be going through one of those spells where he just seems to pick up in injuries. But I remember Schmeichel going through a very similar period where he picked up injuries at United for about a season and a half. Manuel Neuer definitely picked up at injuries at Bayern Munich over the course of 2 to 3 years. Jurgen had a good run for them in goal at one stage. They played Sven Ulreich in goal from half the season last year until Neuer came back in the second half of the season. True. Good teams win with their second choice goalkeepers. I think somebody said the same Grobler and Mike Cooper. Mike Cooper played about 10 games for Liverpool at one stage when Grobler was out injured, and it made a difference. But he was acceptable. You could throw him in for the odd game here and there.
Yeah, I think he was in goal that night in Genoa when Branco scored a deadly free kick. I could be wrong.
The other side of it is the Romero thing. Romero was United's second choice goalkeeper until Henderson developed at Sheffield United. If Henderson doesn't have the season he has at Sheffield United, he's back on loan at Sheffield United this season, and Romero's second choice. If we brought Romero in tomorrow as second choice and Romero performed like he has at many of the other teams he's played at, you'd be having the exact same conversations around Adrian. You just apply it to Romero. If we go and sign Ben Foster, we're going to have the exact same conversations with Ben Foster as we had with Adrian. If we go sign Joan Hart,
I'll take Joan over Joe, to be honest with you.
Hart. But this is it, Gav. No matter who we sign as a backup to Alisson, they're the backup. We're never going to sign a guy who's going to be at the same level. I actually think Arsenal missed the trick by selling Martinez to Villa. I thought Martinez is a better goalkeeper than Leno. I've gone on record and said it. I don't think there's anything between the two of them.
As well.
And I think he's more solid on cross balls, and he takes less risks in terms of saves that he makes. Leno pushes the ball back into trouble all the time. He's very ropey, and he's always ropey in big games. He's always got the yips in a big match, and that's always happens over and over. So I just can't see who we're going to sign unless Edwards has something planning away in the background for the last 3 or 4 months, which he hasn't. We're not going to panic buy. The only way we panic buy today is if Adrian was hit by a bus on the way home. And if Fernando was driving the bus, he'd never hit him, so it'd be all right.
But just on the Alisson thing, like Alisson gets injured in the first day of last season. I was in the ground when it happened, and everyone was going, "What's going on here?" He just hits the ground. He's out for 8-10 games, wherever it is. Right, he's back, and he's back for the vast majority of last season. He does get an injury, and he's forced out because of. Was it a calf injury he had? That forced him out.
Injury, the first one, I think, but wasn't it a hip injury or something?
It might have been a hip.
Where the impact injuries. But
this is what I'm saying. So the talk coming out of training, around this was that he had a collision, and because of the collision, he's done something to his shoulder. But like people saying, is he made of glass, or he says these things happen. You know what I mean?
My only big worry, Gav, when I heard that it was a shoulder injury is for a goalkeeper, shoulder injuries can be terminal. Yeah, and this is not, and I'm not wishing malice, and I'm not wishing that on Alisson in any way, shape, or form. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, right? But if somebody pops their shoulder, and say I don't know if it's dislocated or just a shoulder injury, right? But there was talk that it was a dislocation. If it's dislocation, we have a serious issue because dislocations, it's like concussions. They do pop again much easier. You see fellas who have had careers in the NFL ruined with dislocated shoulders because any time they get hit, it goes out of play. It goes out of whack. Yeah. And even though goalkeepers are protected, they have to dive on their shoulders. They have to go up and they do take physical collisions when they go one-on-one with players. So that shoulder could go at any time, and that means he's gone for another 6 to 8 weeks. So the real question is what we expect to get back with Alisson. Is it one that hasn't damaged the shoulder? But if it has, then we've got a problem.
Yeah,
and also I just see some of the comments coming in. Like, I think we need to get over this. We're not going to sign a goalkeeper today. There's no point in us getting upset about it.
This is going to go on, Phil, because if you take Gazzaniga, this is going to go on because Gazzaniga.
People remember what he was like. It's like saying sign Joe Robles off Everton from the time when he played for Everton.
I'd sign Adrian off West Ham.
Listen, ability aside, what's going to happen here is if Gazzaniga doesn't move tonight to an Everton or whoever it might be, Liverpool and everyone else in England have another 10 days to sign within the English leagues. So this will rumble on for 10 days regardless until Gazzaniga or whoever moves. But like you said, listen, I wouldn't be Adrian's biggest fan. He makes mistakes because I think he tries to be something he's not. Which is a footballing goalkeeper. He's just not. He simply isn't. If you look at all his mistakes, they are trying to be cute or trying to play passes that he shouldn't. You know what I mean? And I said it earlier on. Players stop back passing to him. Don't give it back to him and just tend to kick it as far as you can. And if you have to do that for 6 to 8 weeks, you have enough players in your squad to kind of adapt to that and go, listen, we're just playing this way for 6 weeks until the other fella comes back. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Adrian or Alisson gets back. He's fine. And we get back on the bus.
Gav, the other side of this is that, and it's really annoyed me about the whole thing. I accept that the mistake is a poxy mistake at a poxy time, right? But that team gets the game back to 2-1, and they should have had a penalty to bring it back to 1-0. Okay, now that's straight up, right? The other 6 goals, he doesn't do a crazy thing. We're talking about 6 more goals that have absolutely fuck all to do with what he does. Right?
Do you think he plants himself too early, Phil, and he can't react on any of the deflection's a deflection? We all know that. But as a goalkeeper yourself, right? Do you think he did? What I find with him personally, and I agree with everything you're saying about second choice keeper. What I find with him is he sets himself too early and can't adjust. Would that be something you'd worry about with him? I know what you're saying about all the other goals, but yeah.
He has, Keith. He has what these Mignolet goalkeepers have. He has minus dive. Elite goalkeepers have these incredible stretch dives, and that's what makes them elite, right?
Yeah.
He has just your average dive. Like, if we're talking about a goalkeeper who's similar to Mignolet since he's come to Liverpool, the pressure of playing at the club has gotten to him. When he comes in, of course, he's a freebie and nobody's expecting to play much time, and he comes in and he's basically on a freebie run for the first 8 or 9 games, right? It's at the end of that 9 games or so the pressure starts to come on because we're all of a sudden we've put a winning run of 8 games together or 9 games together, and people are talking, right, we're running away with the league, we can't afford to make mistakes. And that's when the mistakes have started to creep in. The pressure of playing for this team now, when Alisson goes out based on the standards that we've put in place while he's been in that goal is greater than any goalkeeper in the last 30 years since Grobbler in the late 80s. Like, this is what we're talking about. This is a championship winning side. This is a Champions League winning side. Playing for the club as the goalkeeper in that team requires immense shoulders and broad shoulders to be able to carry that weight. This is not like getting in when Mignolet was being replaced by Brad Jones, or Kirkland was replacing Scott Carson, who was replacing Dudek, who was replacing the rest of them, right? Like, there was just an unending conveyor belt of lads getting in goal at that point in time. This is a very different thing. Even Reina, when the pressure really came on towards the end and he wasn't at the peak that he was before, he started to struggle, because goalkeepers struggle mentally more so than physically. Like, if you take Adrian and you throw him into, I don't know, pick a shit side, a relegation threat side, say United, right? He probably makes loads and loads and loads of saves, because they're having pot shots at him left, right, and centre. If you throw him in, when he was at West Ham, when he came in his first 2 seasons at West Ham, when he breaks in and establishes himself at number 1, he's one of the best shot stoppers in the league. People were raving about Adrian. They were talking about him getting called up to the Spanish squad. So he's now dealing with something that he's never had to deal with, and that's pressure. And it's pressure like he's never had before. And that's where I think mentally, going back to your point, Gav, he's trying to play out. He's trying to be an Alisson light, right? He's stopped doing, say, simple things where if lads are putting more pressure on him, which he's doing, and he's not burying the ball 100 yards down the pitch, right? And I don't care if he kicks it out of play, because we can defend throw-ins and stuff further up the pitch. But I do agree with you. If I'm Achterberg and I'm Klopp, I'm going back to him saying, look, the ball comes back, play a pass 40 yards away from goal. Unless it's a clear one that's on, don't go across your goal. Don't give anyone the opportunity to catch it out. You've been caught out 4 times now. Once is unlucky, twice is unacceptable, 4 times you're lucky that we sent Kerry. It's like instead of take him and Kelleher together and just play a two-facing goal for us, like, you know what I mean?
It's like it's nearly like teams are setting traps from opening up little avenues for him to go on, put it there, and he tries to, and then they're on it. But listen, I'm sure when Andy and Dicko and Neilo come on later on, you'll have another big debate about that.
I'm not talking about it now later on. I've done me talking.
Oh, okay, you go up and have your pancakes while the lads are talking about it. James Pearce has said tonight that Wilson, Shaqiri, Grujic won't be going anywhere tonight. We discussed
Danny Wilson.
No, Wilson.
Jockey Wilson, isn't it?
It's the ball from the film with Tom Hanks. But me and Keith discussed earlier. Philly, are you surprised by this? Because like the 3 names that have been on, you know, a lot of people's lips for the last 4 to 6 weeks, especially when the Thiago stuff heated up, because I thought they're going to get rid of him. Thiago will come in and
I think James Pearce and the rest of them are talking absolute bollocks, to be totally honest with you.
Okay, great stuff. That request I sent for an interview will I'll take it back.
Don't press send.
I don't really mind. Honestly, you may as well have Stephen Donnelly there telling us about whether his deals are falling through or not. But Harry Wilson and Grujic, if they're going to English clubs, don't have to be completed tonight.
No, I thought that, but it's I don't know if I'm right or the person who said this to me is right. But apparently, when this deadline goes, the only clubs you can deal with are Football League clubs, not Premier League clubs.
No. Domestic transfers.
Even if that's the case, Wilson will go on to the Championship on loan.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like,
go on loan as well to the Championship.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, you know. It's a bit of a strange one. I just think Liverpool. I thought he would have had deals lined up to get rid of these fellas, and it's gone right till the death now. Couple of more there. Everton have signed Godfrey from Norwich, 25 million. That's a centre half.
Is he not just a cartoon character out of like Mr. Ben?
No,
apparently he's quite highly rated. I've heard.
We were tenuously linked with him before as well. The Twitterati Phil linked us with him many a time. I don't think we ever were really linked with him, but he's one that name got mentioned before. Look, I don't know. Do you rate Michael Keane at Everton? Because to me it looks like Michael Keane Mark 2. Do you know what I mean? And that's what this thing looks like. That's my reaction as well, Phil. That's my reaction.
Well, to be honest with you, in fairness to them, Everton, the signings they've made, they've done very well, and they've identified what they've needed, and they've gone and got them players. They started off very well. Listen, it's a long season, and we'll see come the end of the
Everton
season.
have a lot of money because they've decided not to build the underwater stadium.
Well, that's it. You know what I mean. But not only that, like their expenditure to their income is fucking madness. What they're doing, but with relaxed FFP and stuff like that, if they're ever going to get into Europe,
I'm going to say one thing. I think Grujic, from what I've seen of Grujic all the time, looking at what happened at the weekend, there's nobody that can convince me that he isn't worth to go in midfield when the lads are taking the absolute fucking hit and miss as they were at the weekend, because they were disgusting.
Yeah. Absolutely. But the problem, Phil, the problem is we can't register them all. We've too many non-homegrown players. We can't.
Grujic is only about 11 or something. Like, he's been there since he was 12.
I know, unfortunately.
So I honestly, I just think he's like, why not? Name somebody else in the Fabinho style that we have in that squad, and we don't. Outside of Thiago, he plays a completely different game to him.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but I think if Fabinho was fit, Thiago's fit, and Henderson is fit, Grujic doesn't stand a chance to get into that midfield. And I don't even mean like, oh, that'll be our perfect midfield. I think that either of them three, any of those three, could play in a deeper role. And I don't see Grujic in an 8 for Liverpool. I just don't. But just getting back to Everton, like, they have made good signings. They've started really well. You know, they're top of the world at the moment, and fair play to them. But they've identified what they needed, and the centre half was one. The goalkeeper was actually the bigger one for me, but they may do something around that before it finishes. But it looks like Godfrey is done and dusted at Everton for 25 million. A lot of people are saying have a lot to say about Jordan Pickford, but listen, what hasn't been said before about Jordan Pickford? Let's be honest about it.
I called the fella Waffler 3 years ago. Like, it's a joke shop.
I'm just having a look through here. Of course, Theo Walcott's being linked with a loan move to Southampton because Carlo Ancelotti clearly sees that Theo Walcott isn't very good and he's willing to get rid of him. But the last one I want to touch on, we'll probably get one more in after this because we've about 14 minutes left before the actual forum show starts. And it's Manchester City. And Keith again mentioned this earlier. Phil, they signed Nathan Ake for 41 million, which I don't think is great business. They signed Ferran Torres for 24 million. But are you surprised, genuinely, that City didn't do more in this window?
Did they not sign some fella for 50 million?
They've signed Ruben Diaz. Diaz for 64. But again, I'm going to ask the question again, are you surprised they haven't done more? Because, listen, it's part and parcel of the game of football now. There's three things that are definite in the world, and it's debts, taxes, and Man City spending money on mad defenders. Yeah. And they've done it again
on 2 centre backs.
Yeah, so
they've strengthened.
They've let Otamendi go. He's gone in the other direction in the Ruben Diaz deal, and they brought in Nathan Ake. And Ferran Torres, okay, a wide forward or a winger, whatever it might be. But Phil, when you look at their squad, are you surprised they haven't done a bit more?
When I look at their squad, I just see financial doping. I literally, like, all they've done, they've spent ridiculous amount of monies on defenders who are going to be ultimately just the same as what they have. They've never signed any class. I've said this. I said this said it right. Guardiola is a very good attacking coach. He's a gimp when it comes to defending. Like, honestly, right? So he's signing players just hoping that solves the problem when he actually hasn't got a philosophy or a methodology to defend them, right? And what's happened is teams have learned how to attack his team. And the one thing that has impressed me with Klopp since he came to England was that he adjusted his style to match and be able to be aggressively coaching how he wants his team to play, either setting traps, setting presses, all that type of stuff. Guardiola, in the same way he did it with Germany, he went and he adapted his style to achieve what he needed to achieve in that league. And after 3 years, teams started to find him out at the end of his tenure at Bayern, and he went to Man City. He's now 5 years at City. And if you look at, this is his 5th year, you look at year four, teams last year have figured out how to attack Man City defensively, and they scored a lot of goals against them. He hasn't adjusted. We've come back this year and we're seeing more of the same. And his answer to the problem was throw a load of money at random defenders and hope that that's better, right? So I think, Gav, if when Peds heads off and goes back to Juventus, where they'll give him 40 billion in Italy to spend on all the best players around, even though they win the league every year, or go back to Barcelona when Barcelona get a bank loan.
PSG is my bet, to be honest.
PSG, whatever. When whoever wants to financially dope whatever league they're in, and they'll bring in Peds and pretend he's the best coach that the world has ever seen. Like, it'll take a proper manager. It wouldn't surprise me if Ancelotti goes to Manchester City after Guardiola. What Ancelotti's been very good at is he's been very good at going to big clubs who have failed miserably at the level they've wanted to fail, and managed to pull together the squads without adding too many players to overachieve compared to what they've done beforehand. Did it at Real Madrid, he's done it at Juve, he's done it at all the clubs he's been at, and he's doing it again at Everton. And I did tweet, and I was being totally honest about this, right? If Ancelotti gets Everton top 6 this year, it is bigger than anything that Guardiola has done since he's come to England. Like, Guardiola hasn't got the bollocks to go and take on a real challenge. Like, that's the plain and simple fact. So you ask me, do I care? I don't care what City do. I honestly don't. I don't care what they spend in the transfer market until I see that fella being able to properly coach. And when I say properly coach, it means coach all ends of the pitch. Then I'm literally not impressed with anything they do. Nothing impresses me.
Delafeu's gone to Udinese on loan, and don't Watford owners own Udinese.
Yeah,
is that right?
they do, yeah.
I seen Watford linked for a move for Mario Balotelli today as well, which will absolutely be amazing. You know, there's a few Liverpool fans out there that still feel that Mario Balotelli was hardly done by at Liverpool. So
he's still under the bus.
He's still under the bus. Yeah, he's still under the bus. They threw him under. But look, it still looks like a very quiet transfer deadline day for all the hype that's been around it. United look like they're making moves just because they have to now. Spurs have been quite good in this window. I think they were linked with somebody. Was it?
Well, they were linked with Skriniar, and they never got that one over the line.
But there was somebody else West Ham was looking at, and it looks like Spurs might be going in to try trump that deal. I seen earlier on as well.
Did you see Jack Wilshere's contract has been terminated by West Ham?
Yeah, seen that.
And the favourites to sign him now on a free transfer will be West Ham.
Fuck off.
Nah, it's a joke going around on Twitter. It's typical West Ham, you know. He's got West Ham row all over him.
Yeah. Stu Mack says, I don't know if really should do this with 8 minutes to go when I'm asking Phil this, but listen, Gav, ask this guy if he gives Pep any credit for building Barcelona from a shambles in 08. Bench warmer in PK plus 19-year-old Busquets, Xavi and Iniesta were on the fringes under right card.
Shambles.
Balance.
The Champions League winning club was a shambles. That's like saying Liverpool's a shambles at the moment. Honestly.
No, he transformed them.
Bucket and climbing back into it.
He transformed them, in fairness, when he went in there, because there was a culture problem. There was a culture problem there. Rijkaard let them go too much on the ale and all. Then they were they've been
building for about the best part of 10 years to get to where they were. You don't get all those players coming through La Masia without having a plan in place. And all Guardiola does is he comes along when the squad's already assembled and the players are ready to bring through. And he already had someone to beat out. It's like, why don't we talk about Zidane being the best coach in the world, given what he did when he won 3 Champions League backs to back, which has never been done before and since.
Yeah.
Douglas Costa has gone to Bayern on loan. Was he with Bayern before?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he's got Juventus now to Bayern.
Clubs do mad deals. See, Juve have signed Federico Chiesa, right, on a 2-year loan deal from Fiorentina. 2-year fucking loan. English clubs go in there. They get Liverpool were linked with him as well, and you get quoted like 80 million. Fiorentina, we're not selling for less than 8. Going on fucking loan for 2 years. Madness, them Italian deals.
Yeah, it is a bit of a madness.
It is like, if you watch Gamora though, you're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all you need.
Sorry, Ella Tracy says they're in talks with Rodon from Swansea, 18 million, young Welsh centre-back. That's the one that West Ham was looking at. But it looks like...
You're right, David Walsh. He was banned for doping himself, was Guardiola. That's absolutely right.
He was.
Was that during his time at Brescia? Yeah. But
had dodgy doctors at Barcelona and Bayern.
I seen, and I would have loved to see this happen, but I've seen West Ham linked with Jonathan Tah as well, and Leverkusen. Isn't it Leverkusen he's with? They're looking for 30 million quid up front, and just to see Jonathan Tah in the Premier League would make my day. Especially if it wasn't at Liverpool. It would
get him to Watford and team him up with Balotelli. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
What's Jan and Vea doing?
Jan and Vea. Someone told me last night that Jan and Vea is available for $9,000. I think it might have been Andy.
Was it my imagination, or did your man, the Portuguese lad, sign for somebody at the start of the window? Do you remember the fellow that we were always signing every year? What was his name again?
Quaresma.
That's it. Yeah,
he signed for someone. He done a mad announcement video. Who the fuck did he sign for? I'll have to check that.
He was about 39.
It has to be a Turkish crowd, is it?
Well, he's been over there quite a bit. Yeah. Did you see Choupo-Moting gone to Bayern Munich?
Yeah.
What are Bayern doing?
He has pictures. He definitely has pictures of
Is he
world football.
He's the lad that was at Stoke.
Yeah.
Having the crack, wasn't he?
PSG.
Went to PSG and now I'm playing Bayern Munich.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on there.
Bayern do mad things like that. Douglas Costa, him, and he brought another fella, Bouna Sarr off Marseille. Like the transfers do be bleeding mad.
Yeah. Obviously they're just filling out the squad, Eddie.
They've no debt.
Peter Blake says Cavani is getting Sancho's number 7 shirt at United. And Mr. Nerd, an L favourite, Simeo. Do you remember Simeo? Simeo was the crack. Every fucking year, Simeo. Who we signed, it didn't matter who we needed, it was just Simeo all the time. And
look at this.
And Julian Brandt. Royce was the other player, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Do you see that Dan J said that apparently Ta rejected us because he didn't like Rodgers? Maybe Ta's mates with all the lads on Twitter, and that's why he refused to come to sort out Rodgers' defensive problematic time.
There's Andy, look.
There's himself.
Hey, Andy.
Oh, that gave me the lols, Phil.
Thanks, man.
Of course, if you are watching and you're wondering why we're on at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock the forum will be here. We're going to add Neilo and we're going to add Dicko to this. Me and Keith are going to disappear. The lads are going to talk about reserve goalkeepers. They're going to talk about hot takes. Andy wants to give out about hot takes. I know Dicko wants to talk about transfer deadline days, and Phil just wants to tell everyone why he hates football.
No, that's unfair. That's unfair.
You did. You
all
said.
will be revealed.
It's sport. I've moved my new love of sport towards world affairs and politics, and you can have great fun because you can pick teams and you can watch how things play out in front of you as well. And like it's a bit different to football because you don't really have a match; you just have a constantly ongoing. It's like a constant transfer window.
Okay. Are you trying to turn Pancake Tuesday into like Thanksgiving for the Americans? You know that they have their big American football day on Thanksgiving and they all sit around. You're looking for a sport that you can tie in with Pancake Tuesday.
It's a bit difficult. February is a bit of a strange one.
Yeah.
And
indoor balls.
Yeah.
And because it's Lent, and because it's Lent as well, it's like it moves. It's never constant.
That's it's a hard one to tie down, isn't it?
Yeah. Rufus says Harry Redknapp reminds me of Bagpuss. Now, listen, right. The only reason I put that up there is because Andy made a very good request earlier, and he said, "Join us at 10 o'clock and be very bold in the comments," because done a show last week and it ended up with Kent letting movements or whatever it was called, some sort of caravan rental or something from Kent. It ended up with Arsene Wenger, David Moyes and Alex Ferguson in the chat, and it was absolutely brilliant. So if you this is your chance to be bold. The next chance will be Wednesday when me and Andy have a big chat. I think Keith is going to join us. People are asking for Andy and Gav's big chat, so it's going to happen on Wednesday. We're only allowed to do it during transfer or during international breaks, so that's how it's going to go. David Lennon says up the Periscope Ultras. You get a lot of that, lads, from 10 o'clock onwards. David Lennon still won't let go of the fact that he's not on Periscope anymore.
Holding on.
Let me see. What else have we got? There's nothing really else there. But
just before you go, Gav, because it is closed out the transfer thing, right? I don't know if you've talked about it, but like honestly, what the fuck are United doing? Like the one thing
we've spoken about it
is a centre. But I'm totally baffled by this. They need a centre back more than any team in England, right?
Yeah. The one position they need.
Even Fulham need a centre back less than United do, right? Like that's how bad it is. Like they've sold their best centre back to Roma for like 11 quid or something, right? Yeah. And they've ended up with Phil Jones, Brian Robson, Harry Blockhead, and some other fella, some random fella, and a regen of Pro Evo that doesn't even exist. He's a hologram. Eric Bailey or whatever his name is, Gary Bailey's brother, right? And like you just what? They spent the whole time trying to sign wingers and fellas who play up front. It makes no sense. And I know like all the United fans are slagging here because we let 7 goals in yesterday. It's like I'll worry about that in the season's time when my defence has been horrifically bad for months.
Yeah, and we're signing 33-year-old forwards to sort it out.
I don't know. Listen, you never know. They might do something in the next 60 minutes and 26 seconds. You never know.
Listen, be keeping the big surprise, the big reveal.
That's the first half of your forum over and done with. Me, Keith and Phil kept you company for the first hour. I'm going to attempt to play the intro music from the forum again, take me and Keith off screen and put Neilo and Dicko on. I don't know who's hosting. And Neilo's here. I can see him there. He asked, his first question was, how do I look? And he was told, fantastic. And then he asked, and then Dicko said to him, I'm going the game. And he said, what fucking game? He said, I'm only messing with you. Neilo got a bit frightened there that there might have actually been a game on tonight, and he forgot all about it. But that's just how Neilo works. So listen, we're going to try and make this as seamless as possible. It's going to go horribly wrong, and he's going to hum some sort of fucking tune, because that's how he works. And listen, I'm sure Trev and his vegetables and all that sort of stuff going on Twitter will definitely get a mention in the next hour. If it doesn't, I'm not editing this, and it's not going out as an audio down.
Do you remember that one?
No, you stop. I'm going to try stop this, right? You can talk about whatever you want then.
Can I sing me Lovren song? What was that one again?
When the intro starts, you can unmute yourself and do whatever you like, because Andy just sounds like he's humming while chewing on a crayon most weeks. So if you want to try top that, you're more than welcome, okay?
No, I need to wait until the right moment.
Okay, right. Well, listen, I'm just going to try do this, see how it works, and we'll be back.
Who's hosting tonight, Andy?
We don't know. Let's just decide when you all appear on screen. I think it's Dicko. I think it's Dicko. All right. Right. Neilo's talking to you there, and we can't hear him, but we will know in a minute.
Neilo thinks he's live.
He will be live in a minute. He will be live in a minute. Right. Here we go.
And a patch. Neil, what the hell? How are you, fella?
Oh, what a Barney from Neilo.
You look like have you got like what's that liver disease? Honest to God, but are you phoning us from heaven?
The lighting is great, isn't it?
Honestly, you look like you're in Bulgaria in 1986.
Have you got a mad old filter on your camera?
Vignette. You are in sepia.
It's like Moonlight. Remember when Sybil Shepherd used to come on?
Oh wow!
What's going on? Who's hosting?
Right. Well, I may as well take the reins. Good evening. It is the forum. It is the show after Gav and Keith and Phil. And for a little bit of time there, Andy jumping on the transfer show. We are. Is the window slam shut now, Andy?
No. 1 hour left. We're going to do a countdown.
Okay,
57 minutes.
1 hour, just under 1 hour to go. Great stuff. Right, so tonight we will.
Cavani's going to United. Apparently,
it's done, is it? Okay, seems to be stalling. Cavani sent that centre back they were looking for, Edison Cavani.
Could be the young blood there.
Yeah. Right. So tonight we're gonna discuss a few topics with you. We're gonna Andy's gonna have a little rant about hot take football opinions and reactions on Twitter. I'm going to have a little discussion around deadline days, probably towards the back end of this when it's about to slam shut. Phil's going to go on about how he hates football now. I didn't think that was a new topic. I didn't think that was a new topic. It's only apt that we have Phil on tonight after the biggest slaughter in Liverpool's recent football and history there at the hands of Villa since we were last beaten by Villa 5-1, however many years ago. And Neilo is going to have a bit of a discussion about reserve keepers. No.
I never said it was about reserve goalkeepers.
We're not doing reserve goalkeepers. No. We might do something else. Right. So, first of all, let's just pause and take a bit of time to celebrate the fact that we've made 3 big signings tonight. Liverpool have made 3 big signings.
A bit of breaking news.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien has gone from the Texans. You got the heave-ho tonight.
Okay, so that's completely irrelevant. But good news if you follow the Texans. So 3 big signings tonight. We've signed Gruitch, we've signed Wilson, and we've signed Shaqiri just like new signings. Andy, are you excited by all of that?
Yeah, it's going to be good. Looking forward to it now. Looking forward to seeing them playing. Really good. Actually, you never know. Gerwich might do what he's told.
Yeah. So we'll start with you, Andy. We'll start on the hot take football opinions. I guess this is linked to yesterday's debacle, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you're going to touch on the lack of apologies as well, Andy.
Of course. How could you talk about this without mentioning that? I mean, I wasn't going to go on to Twitter today because I knew what to expect. Hot takes. I was breaking me bollocks laughing after that last night. It was so catastrophic. It got funny. To go on to Twitter and try and analyze it and to try and expect apologies, expect explanations. It's just mad. It was just madness. Now, like the modern world we live in now, everybody just wants to consume small snippets, little videos, GIFs, hot takes in tweets. But the responses today on Twitter when I went on, it's just laughable. If there's people actually feel entitled that they can demand apologies, like I can understand it. We've experienced such highs in the last year or two. You're going to get lows, but come on. I mean, that was a freak occurrence yesterday.
Andy, can I stop you there just for a second? Yeah, I'm not on the Twitter anymore. Who was looking for an apology?
Hey, Neil, just do you know what to do, mate? Just when you're just talking to us, just bring your microphone just a little closer to your lips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that any better?
Absolutely not. But however, let's keep going.
It's not working out.
No, it sounds like honestly you're going through a filter from Bulgaria in 1986, and George Hampton is sitting in the other room beside you commentating.
Neilo, to answer your question, no one of important significance at all. Anyway, I think Rashford or one of the Man United players apologised.
Rashford did come out with a big, long-winded apology. Yeah.
But that's a last resort. That's when your team has been playing so shit for so long that there's no more excuses, and all you can do is offer up an apology. Liverpool just won the league and had an incredible season. There's just craziness happening in football now, and we're going to have to accept it. We've never had this. There's no blueprint for this. No football fans in the grounds. We're going to see crazy shit all for the rest of the season. Okay, Adrian's mistake, ridiculous, right? But after that, it was how we responded to it. And then when we get back in the game, there's three freak deflections. There's nothing really you can take from that game apart from the first 20 minutes or something like that. All that's important now is how they respond and react against everything. If something becomes chronic, look for your apologies, look for your explanations. But to try and analyze that game yesterday, it was just madness. So yeah, the hot takes thing in general is just become a thing now where unless you say crazy things on Twitter, nobody wants to know, nobody wants to retweet you, like your comments, engage. Anyone tries to be a little bit rational or be objective about their opinions. There's no interest in it anymore. It's really strange. So that's my feelings on what I've seen there today and after the game yesterday. It's not measured to what happened at all. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, Neilo, I mean, last week when we were on here, a few of us were talking about, we got a bit carried away with, the leagues won and all that sort of stuff after beating Arsenal. We did dismantle them, to be fair. We were talking about the lack of challenges that were probably going to emerge. And then we get an absolute hiding like that. I mean, what was your opinion after yesterday's game? Did you feel like overreacting, or did you just put it down to one of those days?
Oh my God. Can you hear me at all? No, is this a way?
Yes, go on. That's better.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you. Like, it might be better can you just turn the mic on your phone as opposed to the earphones?
Yeah, well, I'm not using a laptop here, but I use my phone to be better.
No, don't use the phone. Don't use the phone. They'll find out where you are if you use the phone. That's the problem.
Can you just give us the point from Luxembourg?
What mic can you use? Can you use with the mic on your laptop instead of the mic on your earphones on the laptop?
No, all the same, is it?
No, we'll go on anyway. Just talk to us. We'll pretend
It's grand.
Anyway, yeah, come here. What was the question? How was I?
What was your view after the game yesterday? What was your reaction?
Have you got any hot takes?
Any hot takes? Yeah.
Hot takes from yesterday. No, but it was just fucking mad. Like, I don't know. Did we concede 7 goals at home before the COVID breakup in the whole of last season? Probably not. We conceded 7 goals in one game. It was an absolute clusterfuck, wasn't it? I think it's very easy to apportion blame to the goalkeeper and say it's all his fault, but it wasn't his fault. The rest of them were fucking shit as well. It's just one of those days where everything just goes wrong, and I think it's going to be indicative of this season. I think you're going to see a lot of things like that throughout the season because it's such a weird place. Everybody's in such a weird place. Players, no fans. This is like last time it was Project Restart. Now this is the season for real, and it's still this surreal atmosphere. So I think you're going to see a lot of more aberrations like that.
Yeah. I think
so was
right,
I surprised? I'm not surprised I'm very surprised we conceded 7 goals. I'm not surprised we conceded some goals because we have looked kind of leaky. But there was just no get up and go. It was weird. I don't know. It's very hard to pinpoint. I don't think anyone can explain it. And if anyone says they can't explain it, they're full of shit, I'd say.
I mean, three deflected goals. You don't see that. That's to one side. There was some signs last week with us kind of playing the high line. And if your midfielders aren't on it, I mean, I guess you kind of looking.
But that's all bullshit, right? It's all bullshit. It's all the immediacy of it's the micro lens. People just look at the game and straight away they contextualize the micro of the game over the whole course of a season and everything that's happened before. We've been playing that high line for months, if not years now at this stage, right? We've been playing the key issue for yesterday is not the high line. The key issue is how shit the players were. We haven't played that bad. We haven't played as bad as that since we were absolutely tonked by Spurs in Wembley. There's no other explanation for this. Right, since the Spurs game, we've been impeccable defensively. My hope is that is the kick up the hole they need to be impeccable defensively going forward. Even when we played Watford last year and we got tonked 3-0 when they broke our unbeaten record, right? For about 60 minutes of that game, you could still plausibly see us getting back in, and it just seemed like there were mad shots that were going in left, right, and centre. For me, I'm telling you that midfield was disgusting.
Yeah.
Wijnaldum, Keita is pointless. I'll say this over and over again. I will praise him when he praise is due, and he was brilliant against Arsenal. But you look at the energy levels in that midfield yesterday, and it was shocking. They were run all over by Barkley and Grealish. Fuck me, those lads aren't good enough. If those lads were in our squad, they'd be on the exits going on tonight. Now, if you want a hot take, that's a hot take, because those fellas would be going out the door. They'd be Grujic, they'd be Shaqiri, and they'd be Wilson. That's exactly what they would be. And we let them run all over our midfield. Fabinho, Keita and Wijnaldum were absolutely, it was the worst I've seen them play. But I will then throw it back. I think Klopp was incredibly naive and incredibly poor in selecting Fabinho and Wijnaldum to play in the game against Arsenal on Thursday. And that will impact energy levels. The same with Van Dijk. Van Dijk needs a kick in the arse since the season has restarted. He has looked. I
think since the project restarted, he hasn't looked himself.
Yeah, but he looks like he's lackadaisical, and I know things were so easy for him for most of the last 2 years. But it also looks like he's getting overconfident and over arrogant, and that came through in the last couple of performances where we've all been saying he's been a little bit off. But oh my God, lads, Gomez! If we're going to talk about things, the midfield. Firmino, the midfield, and Gomez.
Firmino was chronicle.
Like Gomez, I know Trent had a bad game, but Gomez is a huge issue. And the biggest issue, the one piece that I have at this moment in time, that the biggest issue I have, and probably the hottest take, and going back to Andy's hot takes, the only hot take, and it hasn't been really trashed around that much today, but it should have been. It's the only hot take that was valid, is the fact that we've gone into this season with only 3 centre-backs. And we're reliant on now using Fabinho as a 4th centre-back, which is to the detriment of our team. And people destroyed Lovren. The performance Gomez put in yesterday and has been putting in for a while have been the same levels of performances that Lovren had been putting in and were destroyed for over eons, and he was never good enough. So for me, there's always a narrative that's going on. And if you want hot takes, it's what we can criticize Gomez today, but they're not trying to chase him out of the club like all the same. The lads were trying to chase Lovren out of the club from the day he signed.
Can I give you a non-hot take?
Yeah.
Can we just stop saying hot take because it's doing me brain in?
Just say it enough times and then it'll lose all meaning and then you'd be grand.
It's a bit like everyone used to say segue. You know, you don't hear it anymore, do you?
Yeah. Anyway, this is a cold take. If you take the last 2 years under Klopp and our midfield, you know, and they were calling a Brexit midfield at one stage, and then it was called a functional midfield. Jordan Henderson is a massive, massive, massive loss in that midfield when we're trying to do what we're supposed to do in the midfield. There was no press yesterday, right? It was a complete mess. Keita's getting a bit of stick now, but I think Keita's now being transformed into a different type of player. I don't think we're ever going to see the Naby Keita we've seen at Leipzig for Liverpool. He's not going to be allowed to break the lines. He's going to be converted into one of those functional type of midfielders if he's going to last at Liverpool. And he's going to have to do it well as the rest, and we're going to want to, see a little bit of class out of him as well, a bit of a threat. But that midfield is lacking Jordan Henderson massively. There was no press. Like Ellis Tracy there says, Trent and Gomez were cut away too many times. But the fact of the matter is, right, we're playing this high line. The high line can't work unless we defend as a unit.
Everything in front of it is going correctly. Yeah, that I guess that's the point I was trying to make.
If you don't chase the ball down and you don't press the players, set the traps, do all the things that the midfield is supposed to do, balls are just going to be clipped over the top all game, every game. And that's what happened. It was the first time we've seen a midfield under Klopp being so dysfunctional. But look, we're getting into analysing the game when I don't think there's even any point in analysing that game. It's, as I said, it's a freak occurrence. It's not going to be the status quo. Hopefully there's a response against everything. But I think once we get Henderson back into the midfield, I think we'll see a huge improvement in especially in what we've seen yesterday. And
Aiden 91 there says it looked like we had 4 Jonathan Taz in defence last night. Great show.
Yeah. You don't go from being the world champions, English champions, European champions, whatever, other champions, Asian champions, whatever else, overnight to being a bad team. It's just an aberration. I wouldn't get too stressed about it.
No, absolutely. Look, we're not of course we're not a bad team. We're quality. We've been spoiled rotten. That's why I wasn't just
straight out of the 80s here.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's 1986 here, and all the commentators used to smoke.
Yeah, Neilo is, because we're in a title race with Everton, we've been transported back to the mid 80s. Nilo's, is
going to have a pot of goulash now.
Nilo's ringing us on a VHS camera from 1986. This is England 86.
Oh, dear.
Well, come here. So this Kubi Babli, we need to play Trent at right mid, Gomez at right back, Fabinho at centre back. Yeah, so we need to make 3 changes and play 3 lads completely out of position. That would really be brilliant.
I think. Well, I don't know.
Is that not
play how good how important that goalkeeper is? I mean, Phil, you remember when we had Mingley, we spoke about him every show for years, saying how important the goalkeeper is and how important, how detrimental he is. You just see. He's the gel that holds it all together. Not just from the shot stopping ability or his general ability, but from his influence on everybody around.
Neil, I did a lot.
That was my hot take for tonight. So it was.
Yeah, but it's a 6-week problem, isn't it? It's a 6-week problem now that we've got to manage. And obviously we didn't go, there was rumours today, we didn't go in for anyone. There's still, I guess, an option, is there, for another week to potentially try and poach someone from the
Championship? All you're going to get is somebody who's second string. Like, you're not going to get a fourth team goalkeeper. You're not going to play for 6 weeks. That was what I was getting at. He seems to be injured a lot for a goalkeeper, a very top level goalkeeper.
I again, these are things that are being fueled by hot takes. So I like Andy's idea of the hot take topic, because the thing with Alisson is he seems to be going through just a rough patch with injuries. He never had these injuries before. and he's probably not going to have them. But I remember a time when Schmeichel missed about 14, 15 games for United over the course of 2 seasons because he kept picking up injuries. Manuel Neuer's missed the best part of 2.5 seasons over the last 4 years with injuries. They do happen. The problem is how you manage that. And if you look at what Bayern have done with Neuer, say, right, they brought Reina in as his backup. Okay, they brought Sven Ulreich in then as his backup after that, and Ulreich was I think was awarded Golden Gloves of the season in Germany the year that Neuer was out. So it's all about what can you do to manage the thing. And the idea of the hot takes today was sign a backup keeper, sign Gazzaniga, sign Romero, sign this fella, sign that fella. We've got a brilliant transfer machine that works in the club, and they don't do panic buys, right? They're obviously happy enough with Adrian. If they're not
Smith today.
What?
Alex Smith today.
No,
Hughes outside.
I know Hughes outside because they thought we're going to level 5.
Not a shit.
But I look at it and I say, you look at Adrian, and this is what I said to the lads earlier on. I've already said to most of the guys that are online as well. The problem we have with Adrian is that the pressure he didn't when he came in for the first 8 games and he did all right for us and was acceptable as a backup keeper. He wasn't carrying the pressure of performing for this team week in, week out. He wasn't carrying the pressure of being part of the Champions team, and he wasn't carrying the pressure that if I make a mistake, I'm under a microscope that I've never been under at any other club been at, and that includes West Ham. Right? He's now seeing that every mistake he's made, the fans are online and are constantly at him and want them out of the club and are hunting him. And if you look at what was going on today, he's mad to come on. He came on himself. We pick ourselves up and we go again, right? Like I would be deleting my account and just hiding for a couple of days and knowing what the fan base, and I'm talking about the online fan base, is like. It's not about supporting. It's about Andy's hot takes, and it's about how you get aggressively angry with everything that goes wrong to you for the smallest amount of it, and not about talking what's going on. Now, honestly, this Adrian, if they need to get your man, what was your man's name that almost won us the league? The psychological fella, Dr. Peters. They need to get Dr. Peters back into the building over the 2 weeks. Do you remember he was the fella that was looking after the Sky cycling team, and they used all the liquids to help them win the Tour de France, and then the Great Britain cycling team won it all, and then he came to Brendan Rodgers in 2014, and we almost won the league when he was there helping the lads out with the mental side of the game. They need somebody to go and talk and sit down with Adrian and say, right, look, let's take a deep breath here. You can't play football. Stop trying to fucking pass it and just hoof the ball 60 yards down the pitch every time the ball comes near you, right? We'll deal with it from there on out. I will, but my knee is sore at the moment.
Can I give you one more sort of hot take? The last time I'll say it, Ella Tracy has said she'd rather have Neilo between the sticks than Adrian.
There you go.
Discuss.
There's a mobility issue there.
The one thing I would say in Adrian,
I'm probably better with the ball at my feet than he is.
The one thing I would say about Adrian is, and it's probably a blessing really in some respects, because we're going to have to put up with him for the next 6 weeks. Thankfully, there is no crowds, and thankfully, I think the cop would have added to his nerves over the next few weeks. Had they been in the ground, we've all gone to matches where there's zero confidence in the goalkeeper, and it's not a good thing at all. So it's probably, I guess we've just got to accept that he's going to be there for the next few weeks. And if he does let 1 or 2 in, like he did in that kind of mini run of 8 or 9 games at the start of last season, then we've just got to hope that we score more goals than he's responsible for ultimately.
The Carriers is really losing the plot about it, but like he needs to get over it because we're not signing the goalkeeper, and Adrian's going to play and goal for us. So like you can like with the hot takes of Comedy Central and Achterberg is the problem and the world is the problem and everything's going under and the whole lot. Like there's a good chance that if he's in for 4 games, we don't lose in those 4 games. What are we going to do? We're just going to give out constantly about it. Like I think he's lost 2 games in his whole time that he's played and go for us.
Yeah, look, last season we were really concerned when Alisson went out injured, and Adrian made a couple of mistakes in that run of games. That's all, and it didn't cost us any points. There's no it's the hot take thing again, right? Adrian made the mistake for the first goal. But the other 6 goals weren't his fault.
No. 3 deflected shots. He had absolutely no chance with them. In fact, he made a couple of saves. Otherwise, it could have been worse.
And the other thing as well about fan culture lately is I taking players aside and slaughtered them. Klopp brought Adrian in. Klopp selected Adrian. The fella's only doing his best. You know what I mean? Go and slaughter Klopp if you have the balls to do that.
Yeah. And I know his Twitter account as well, so if anybody wants to know, just hit me up afterwards and I'll tell you what the secret Twitter account is.
Yeah. But come here, look, it's
an overreaction. That's what it is. And I guess none of us have experienced a defeat like that, a result like that. You know, we still felt we were in the game when we were pulling goals back. You know, even when we were three goals down, we still felt like there was a way back in, but there was the wounds were there and the salt was being rubbed into it every time they sort of scored there towards the end.
But right, I know the topic that we're sort of on is the second topic, which is reserve goalkeepers and where do you go to, right? Do you know what I mean? Like honestly, I asked this question earlier on. Everyone was lashing out we should sign Ben Foster. Like, I know Shane was saying we should sign Ben Foster. People have been saying we should sign Romero. People are saying we should sign a goalkeeper. Like the reality is, if you look at the standard of goalkeepers who are number twos for the clubs right the way across the league at the moment, he's the same standard. Caballero was the number two at Chelsea until they signed Mendy, right? So he's the same standard. I don't know why people are losing. Would he be my first choice? No. Would I want them as a first choice goalkeeper? No. That's why we spent all the money to sign Alisson. That's why we copped on that you need to spend a lot of money to buy the best. But is he going to do 5 or 6 games for us? Quite possibly. If he's going to play in the FA Cup, he's got Grant playing the FA Cup.
Difficult. It's
we
very
don't even
difficult
have the
to
League
get.
Cup now for a goalkeeper.
No, we don't.
What goalkeeper is going to? Well, look, we have this discussion every time we talk about someone coming in to play back up to Bobby, someone coming in to play back up to Mane or Salah.
Somebody's brought in to replace Firmino because he's been absolutely shy for 18 months now at this stage. I don't care what anybody says. Like that's not a hot take. That's a fella who's playing in front and looks completely mad. Right, is so inconsistent, and nobody can tell me that you can't find a player who can't not score goals and be creative, because there's loads of them out there.
But just back on goalkeepers though. I mean, we see Pickford in goal making those kind of blunders every week. He's the first choice goalkeeper for Everton. He doesn't appear to be under any pressure for his position. I mean, Neilo. The reality is you've just got to suck this up, haven't you? Because we're not really going to get an upgrade at the reserve goalkeeper position at this point. Yeah, reserve goalkeeper position.
We're stuck with what we have. We just have to suck it up. Yeah, there's not really no point in discussing it anymore because he's just in there for the next 6 weeks. How many matches that is, I'm not too sure of the break. But he's going to play, so just suck it up. It is what it is.
Just a couple of things.
He's unfortunate at the time. Like at this time, Van Dijk is playing below his usual levels. Trent was yesterday. Gomez was a bag of shit. The midfield was awful. And then Firmino, the kind of what he does from the front as well, defending from the front, that wasn't even happening. So it's unfortunate for him too.
Yeah, just a couple of things on the transfer front. Walcott medical completed at Southampton, so he's on his way.
How did he pass that?
Well, he has been getting on a few times recently, so he must be in his little kind of injury-free period.
Be like Oxlade trying to pass the medical or Lallana passed the medical. Like you had to wait. You had to leave him out for months.
There is a window. Cavani on a 1-year deal. Cavani on a 1-year deal to Man U. Rafinha to Leeds to be announced before 11.
Yeah, again, don't give a fuck.
There always seems to be Rafinha floating around, isn't there? Like this, always Rafinha.
Yeah.
It's always.
Can we get back on topic about the keepers again? There was a time.
Neilo said no.
Yeah, there was a time when we had Miggs as one goalkeeper and Karius, and one of them was going to be our Champions League goalkeeper, and the other one was going to be the league goalkeeper. Now, you think of that mess, right? And going back a bit further, when we had 2 goalkeepers and we didn't know who was better or who was worse than the other, you know, going back to Rafa days and before that. To have a goalkeeper like Alisson, I'll accept 5 or 6 games, 5 or 6 league games a season with having a subpar goalkeeper like Adrian. At the end of the day, if we don't give up those chances as we did yesterday, we wouldn't have lost that game. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't fuck all he could have done about those deflections.
some analysis there, Andy. If we hadn't given up them chances, they wouldn't have scored on the ball there.
We conceded 7 goals. We conceded 7 goals. That wasn't the hot take today. Isn't going so a new fucking goalkeeper. It's just show a reaction against Everton.
Yeah, in overly simplistic terms, the best case scenario there was we got beat 3-2, even with Alisson in goal, because he's not saving those 3 deflections. So maybe we should just move on. We might move on to the other topic now, which is Phil and his just hates football. Juicy Hayeken is in the chat. One of Andy's good pals is Juicy, and he says some fans always need someone to complain about because they have nothing else to say when they want to talk about football. Phil, is this a general hatred for football right now, or
are you stupid? Did you not read the topic? The topic was this simple. At what point do you turn off from something? Do you turn off from supporting or paying attention to a sport that you've been watched? It was a question that I posed simply because if you look at all the discussions we're having tonight, like we're talking about the hot takes, and you're just laughing and going, "What type of idiots coming out with that?" Right? You're looking at this constant clamour for, like, even what's driving me mad is you can't have a debate or a criticism or a discussion around the player anymore. Straight away, we mentioned that Firmino's been gick for 18 months, right? Like he has moments, but he's been getting progressively worse through every single month, to the point now where we have a centre forward who doesn't score goals, and then you get thrown at you. Well, he's not a centre forward, so don't treat him like that. Okay, so I don't know what he is.
But surely it's progressed from that, Phil. What we've seen is not just the fact that there's a lack of goals there now. That the amount of times that he
gives the ball
facing towards the opposition's goal, sometimes in the opposite half of the field, gives the ball away, and all of a sudden the opposition's on the attack from him giving the ball away directly.
But for me, Ray, looking at it, it's like, I look at everything that's going on, and I've been part of this sort of football fan movement where we do podcasts and we debate and we discuss, and you just look at the way things have progressed. It's like it's like you just look at everything and you just go, I wish you could just turn it off and just enjoy the game. And I would encourage anyone that if you start falling out of love with what's going on, delete Twitter for a few weeks and watch the matches. And don't have a hot take. Don't go online. Talk to your mates about the game. Talk to real people, right, about the game, and see how that impacts you. Because I said to you last year, right, one of the big things for me was that I stopped paying attention to what was on Twitter. I stopped paying attention to what was going down with the LFC world of fans, and just started watching the matches for what they were. And my God, the relief was amazing to sit down and watch a game, and to be not trying to obsess over every small detail in the moment of it happening. All you could do is watch the game and go, Jesus, this is a great game of football. Do you know what I mean? I talk to Steve-O. I know he's not on anymore, but I talk to Steve-O regularly when the matches are on. And it's like that. It's not because it's a hot take. It's just having a discussion about a game. But I get to a point where there's some sports where I've just grown out of love with it because it's constant. You look at Sky Sports, all it is sensationalism. Sensationalism, sensationalism, sensationalism. Everything is sensationalism. And you go, at some point, it fades away and people stop being interested because all they want is sensationalism. And the transfer window tonight is the perfect example of this. There are people online who are actually fans of transfers and not football. All they're thinking in their head is, when is the next transfer window and who is my team going to sign? That's all it is, right? That's all it is. All they're interested in, who is my team going to sign? They don't care whether they get Champions League, whether they win a trophy, win anything. It's about, who are my team going to sign? You're not interested in football. You can literally stop following football from the moment the window closes until a month before the window opens, and you can start looking at the rumours again. And that to me is a massive turn off.
Phil, do you think you get led by opinions on football Twitter? Do you think suggestions, opinions, views on things influence what goes on in your head? Or do you personally, but for other people as well, or do you not think that most people can just read that and think it's absolute rubbish? When you come away from Twitter for a month, say, and you go back on, does it seem totally unfamiliar that you don't know what people are talking about because it wasn't going on in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
You know what I think?
I would honestly.
I'd like to
Honestly, I don't understand. I don't understand people. I don't understand people.
Yeah.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, Neilo.
Sorry, Neil.
You can
Okay.
speak.
Thank you very much. I don't want to seem conceited or self-indulgent or whatever, right? But after we won everything last year, I did not really give a shit what happens really this season at all. I didn't think we were going to win the league. I think I was ever going to see it happen. And then when we just won everything, everything else is just a bonus for me. I'm not that involved anymore. I'm not really too concerned what happens. I'm still just happy, and I'll be happy forever after what happened last season. So I'm not too concerned what's going down, to be honest. I'm kind of chilled it out at all.
That's lovely.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So if you want any massive insight from me, it's kind of, listen, we won everything last year, so it's all good.
So you're happy.
See this build the dynasty shit we have to win everything for 10 years. Do we bollocks? We won fuck all for 30 years, that was important, and then we won everything. So just chill that fuck out, watch the match and enjoy it. We seen 9 goals yesterday, happy out. Well, like when all of a sudden they become this fucking the die-in of how football is supposed to be played. When did we become the most important thing in the world? For years we were just fucking nearly men who never won anything, and it was the most frustrating thing in the world. That was great crack. It was the most frustrating thing in the world. And now we won everything and people are stressed. Shut the fuck up, everybody.
Shut the fuck up.
Everybody's stressing
Neilo's back.
Yeah, but it's so stressy, isn't it? Like, oh, well, why aren't we doing this? We need to press it. But they don't press it in the middle, it goes over the back of Gomez and said, fuck off. We won the Champions League last year and the league. Who gives a
Yeah, but I think I think with all of that, you know, with all what's happened over the last couple of years, like the expectation levels are so high. So I know yesterday was just an abomination, but like even when we beat Leeds 4-3, people are losing the shit all over the place. Let's face it.
Hang on. We've
won
won
1 million points the season before that. So
but Neilo, we've won 3 or 4 games this season so far, right?
That's 75% in my book, Phil.
Yeah, it's pretty good going, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like we started any. Do you know no team? And this is people have missed this. No team in the history of the Premier League has won their first four games 3 seasons in a row.
Really?
No team.
No way.
Yep.
No
so
way.
we would have to do something
all over the world.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go.
But
all I'm saying is, at what point do you turn off? Right? Like there is a point where you start getting older and you just go, I just can't be arsed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think also there's a bit of, you know, what's going on in the world around us at the moment. This is everyone's big release right now, isn't it? Let's face it. Everyone's so invested in this because it's kind of the highlight of a lot of people's weeks. And when you get disappointed to that extent yesterday, people just go off at the deep end.
But come here, I think there's a huge amount of this that stems from there's people who are doing nothing and they just sit at home and they're just constantly online, right? There's that element, and then there's the ones who aren't, who have things to do, families, work, all that type of stuff that's going on, and they come in to watch the game at the end of the week. And I genuinely think that there's going to be a large proportion of them who start getting turned off to modern football with no crowds. I think there's a huge element that also as a product, it's nowhere near as attractive as it is when there's fans in the stadium and there's true colour. Like if you look at the German matches at the weekend where they brought in 11,500, 12,000 fans back into the grounds, and they get rid of that stupid backing track that they have where it's just the same stuff out of FIFA over and over again, right? Like the difference that makes to what you're watching, the ability to watch something that has a sound that's natural to the match that's going on and ebbs and flows correctly with what's going on is massively different. And the longer England goes without crowds, the less attractive that product's going to be globally. We'll obviously still watch it because we're so invested for so long, but globally, I know you're not anymore. But then again, you were strapped in 1986. Wait, let's tell you what happens over the next 20 years.
Come a bit closer to the camera there, Neil. Can't quite hear you.
You look a bit. Do you remember what was that film where they were trapped inside the television? What was that one? The horror film?
Poltergeist.
That's the one, yeah.
We'll be previewing Liverpool's game against Howard Kendall's Everton in a few minutes.
I know, yeah.
So you'll feel right at home.
Dixie Dean, is that the signing a contract extension?
Oh, well, at least you've got one fan, Neilo. Ella Tracy. Are you two related? Because Ella says you're gold.
Well, it's more the looks, really, I'd imagine.
Certainly more than the opinions.
The jaundiced look.
Given it's your niece, it's no wonder she's your biggest fan, but however.
Gary's saying he's sure that these results are happening because, of the lack of fans in the stadiums. I think we said start of the season that probably wouldn't take as many points as obviously we got last year to win the league. This league may take plenty of twists and turns and be won in the 8. Might be more of a standard league, mightn't it? It might actually level the playing field somewhat.
We did this conversation.
That's the point I made at the very beginning, Dicko, yeah? You want me to write it down for you?
Yeah.
All right, you finished now? We did this conversation a few times about how no fans in the grounds would affect Liverpool more than other teams. It's turned out to have an impact that I don't think anyone expected. Okay, home advantage is completely out the window. Every game is practically a neutral venue now. But I couldn't have ever imagined so many goals being produced, so many penalties. Like, as I said, there's no blueprint for this. We're seeing something that we've never seen before. Players are experiencing something that they've never experienced before. Like, even the young kids coming through have been playing in front of crowds all their lives. When they go to academies and all the way up through the youth teams and playing for their country at underage, there's loads of people watching. It's totally different, and we don't know what to expect this season. We could easily see ourselves having a reaction against Everton and going on a mad run and win the league by 40 points, but we could just as likely see a freak winner of this league this season.
Well, that was what I was going to ask. A potential wild card.
How good has Salah been since the season started?
Yeah, it's the one thing that's been overlooked is that Salah seems to be back to his lethal best, and we're talking about he's not snatching at chances, he's not missing chances. When they're falling to him, he's burying them. He's probably on course to have a 30-35 goal season this year in the league, and it's like if he delivers that. There's no reason why we shouldn't be challenging. The worry I have for me off the back of this. The worry I have off the back of this is what happens. What happens? I think teams suddenly see us as being beatable, and they think there's a style to get around us. And I think that's genuinely something that's going to be interesting.
You know what? I think this could be. You say that the teams may have sussed us out a little bit, yeah, and
which they will.
Around us. But remember when Coutinho left? And then we had to evolve a little bit in how we were playing. We weren't so focused as going through him all the time, yeah? I think Thiago coming through could have a very, very similar effect, because if there is a style about us that can be exploited somehow, if everybody isn't quite on it, I think Thiago brings in something radically different. And I think that might be a little bit of an evolution that we're going to go through. It might take a little bit longer than we're expecting, but I think it's going to be a very positive thing. And I think that's why he was brought in, to kind of nullify that when teams seem to think they have a way to beat us. When you bring him in, he changes the game completely. So that brings another facet to our play. And I think he's going to be really, really important, more important than we ever thought. And we need to get Kate out of there because he's a complete fraud.
There's so many different options to go from where we are. When Thiago comes in, Henderson's back in, you don't even need to change shape. You just continue on as you were, and we'll see improvements. If it did come to a thing where you had to change things up, Bobby wasn't performing, Salah can play through the middle there. Just see Kevin O'Sullivan making that show. And Jota comes into the team and plays out wide. And there's something different that we can have that we didn't have before. So, look, it is a massive overreaction to the last 24 hours. I think at about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or whatever time it was by the time United were beaten, and City dropping more points, people thought we were going to absolutely tear away with this league. And just as I said at the start, it's all hot takes. It's the micro analysis. People are just looking at the last game and thinking that's the status quo now for the rest of the season. That we're going to have Henderson out for the rest of the season. We're going to have Thiago out for us. Mane, another massive loss yesterday. I'm absolutely certain if our midfield was a little bit different yesterday, we would have seen more effort and more cohesiveness in the team, playing as a unit, defending as attacking as a unit. There's lots of things that can change. Look, I still fancy us to win the league. I still fancy us to be the team that is most consistent out of all the madness that's going on at the moment. I think Klopp is the one manager that can refocus the players, that can get them to react, that can motivate them again and show a response. Like, fuck yesterday, it was a comedy, right? Okay, it was laughable. I wasn't even bad form today. I would have been in way worse form if it was a close game against, United, and we lost by an odd goal.
Or a dodgy penalty.
We gave it our best. But that's the absolute worst you'll probably see effort-wise. And for things to go against us, like deflected goals, and for to give an early goal away, like the way Adrian did, you won't see that. You won't see that again. Well, I fucking hope we don't see it again for the rest of the season.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we are still favourites to win this league. Man City is slightly behind us as second favourites. So I think the bookies are maybe not taking any chances on there being a bit of a freak this season. And I noticed both Everton and Spurs were into 20-1, which you would say that they probably should be 5 times those odds in reality, but just because of what's happened yesterday and Saturday, and the fact that it is a very strange set of circumstances, who knows? Of
course we're fucking favourites to win the league. I've said it earlier, we won fucking everything last year, for fuck's sake. I don't know. I don't know who these people are you're referring to that are micro-analysing Andy. I don't know. What's happening?
Well, we didn't win everything last year, Neilo. Let's sort of get that straight.
Everything. Nothing going, we won it. Everything.
Isn't a lot of this fear though just bred mainly because you've got Everton has started off so well. If it was City, everyone would be saying, "Oh, look, we're on 3 points behind City, and this is the way it was going to be." Just this time last year, they lost the game, we didn't. You know what I mean? Instead, we're 5 points ahead of City. We're in that group of teams that are 3 points behind Everton. If we beat Everton, we'll go level or above them in the next game. That's who we play in the next game. If we want to be champions again, if we want to retain our trophy, then we have to prove it all over again that we're the best team in the league. And and that comes with beating our local rivals, which we don't do that often.
Yeah,
in Goodison. In Goodison.
Is there anything the game at Anfield?
Second game's at Anfield, yeah.
Okay.
Playing it in the park.
You may as well.
Well, there's no fans allowed in. To be better off playing at Stanley Park or one of the pitches there, get the nets up and let the lads just walk around their bikes and have an old gawk as to what's going on.
What do we're touching on Everton here? What's everyone's quick kind of assessment of Everton so far?
They won't finish in the top 6.
They've got a good 8 players. And then they have a criminally shit goalkeeper who's worse than any goalkeeper we've had in the last 20 years. Worse, there isn't. It actually isn't like as bad as the goalkeepers we've had. And I'm including Carragher in this. There's not a single goalkeeper we've had as bad as Pickford, and as overrated as Pickford was.
Remember Carragher?
Yeah.
They were dead.
But he just waited until the biggest moment to have like the worst fucking brain fart. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. But there's not a more consistent these days, is there, than a Pickford mistake and a Harry Maguire mistake week in, week out?
No, but Pickford will probably have the game of his life against us. Just because he normally has a really bad fucking yeps in him in terms of what's there. But yeah, I think like ultimately, if Everton hadn't spent 20 million on somebody and they had bought a proper goalkeeper, I'd be more likely to say, based on what United have done in the transfer window and based on what Chelsea's issues are because they have Frank Lampard as manager, and Spurs seem to be fairly up and down, that Everton would have a good chance to sneak into the top 4. I think Arsenal are going to have a good season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite tight between positions, assuming it's still Liverpool and City between positions 3 and 8. It's going to be.
Yeah, I have to say, Ray, I think the league will be won on 93 points or less this year. I think it's just one of those years where, with fans out of the stadiums, no real home and aways, you're going to see mad results. And we've seen mad goals and mad amount of goals being scored over the first few weeks. I just think that you're going to have this mad season where one bad game and lads there won't be anything there to pick them up. You won't have that reaction from the crowd, and teams will just keep scoring goals for fun.
Look, people that complain about our depth are fancying everything, to do a bit of damage this year. It makes no sense. Like, there's comment there, Everton's starting 11 is solid, but no real depth. Spot on. It's going to be one of those seasons. It's a congested season, lots of games. They're going to get hit with a few players going out with coronavirus as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I suppose if there was ever a season or ever a time when you could win a league with Pickford and goal, maybe it is this season. But no, you can't win a league with that goalkeeper and that defense. It's impossible.
Yeah, they're giving up too many chances. I mean, they're also going for the domestic cups. They've put out very strong teams so far because they would see that as a major success to get a domestic trophy of any.
The low hanging fruit, if you will.
Yeah, well, for them lot, definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as the game coming up, any genuine concerns, Neilo, or do you think we'll dust ourselves down and do what we normally do and beat them comfortably?
The derby?
Yeah.
Not too concerned about it. No, we'll beat Everton because they're just. Listen, at the start of you'll see generally at the start of the season, some team does really, really well. It's like Bolton Wanderers reminder. It's what comes to mind. They always done really well back in the day, and then they just fade away. Everton are going to just fade away. They're having a little good spell there at the minute, and they all have a little horn on them, and they're having a great time. But that's going to fade away, and they just drift back to 8th. They finish 8th, 9th, somewhere there. James Rodriguez, when it gets cold, he'll leg it.
It'd be like leg it back to Colombia. And Phil, there's some I guess at some point the run of victories against Everton has to come to an end. Law of averages.
Yeah, but we were eventually going to get beaten by them in some game. I just hope it's not this game. And I hope it's not this season.
Of any season.
If you're going to lose them, losing some shit cup like the League Cup or the FA Cup, like that's the best time to lose. Don't use up a proper result in a proper competition than in those shit. Like, lose your shit games in shit competitions. Right? Do you know what I mean? Don't take those cups as even anything to write home about. Like, there's no point.
Yeah,
honestly. But on the Everton side, like, I just think, lads, it's one of those. I'm disappointed we didn't sign a centre back tonight. I am genuinely disappointed we didn't sign a centre back tonight. But we knew we weren't, so it is what it is.
No, the club pretty much said that the business was concluded after Jota was brought in. So I think someone says they don't do knee jerk, so dust themselves down.
I think what might have happened, right? Actually, now that I'm not considered it a little bit, they all didn't get a full pre-season with Klopp. that's why standards have dropped off a little.
I honestly think the whole COVID thing this week would have disrupted everything. There would have been players there wondering were they going to come down with it. It must have just been a logistical nightmare to have Thiago and then Mane. Obviously, Alisson going down with the injury late on day before the game. I mean, they're excuses, but they would have been factors in what would have happened there yesterday. So we move it on. I'm conscious we've got about 5 minutes before the transfer deadline door slams shut, and we were going to talk about some previous highlights in terms of transfer deadline. I'm sure you've all got your own. For me, it was actually I was watching it tonight. I actually put a bit of a smile back on my face watching Harry Redknapp in the studio coming out with some of the things he was saying. Spurs were going to win the league. Jack Wilshere's a fine player. Any Premier League club should be snapping him up now. He's a free agent. And it just took me back to the fact that really every decent transfer deadline involved, the dealings that Harry Redknapp was involved in, right at the death, and obviously having people constantly there outside Spurs' training ground because you just knew something was gonna unfold. Andy, any personal highlights for you down the years?
I was trying to think that have we ever done good business on transfer deadline day, and I was trying to think of a time when it wasn't transfer deadline day.
The deal was only signed on transfer deadline day in the January.
Well, remember we got Andy. What's his name?
We got Andy Carroll and Suarez both signed on the same day.
Well, he was in the helicopter, wasn't he, Andy Carroll? That really was deadline day stuff. Yeah.
Suarez's deal wasn't signed until deadline day. Sturridge. I know that was when it opened, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was as far as I remember, Phil.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was Suarez not brought in just before the week Torres went?
He signed on deadline day because Torres didn't leave until deadline day.
I think he actually signed before Torres went. At one point we had Suarez.
Yeah, at one point we had Suarez and Torres. Couldn't have been the deadline day.
I don't think it was the day.
Was Balotelli deadline day? Because I always remember there was a crowd congregated outside Melwood, and it was mad. Was that deadline day?
Could have been. Because didn't he play against Spurs the next day or something, or he was in the squad for the following day?
Yeah, like for a microsecond, they got excited about that one. Bellamy signed last day. Ox signed last day.
When did Robbie Fowler sign back?
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was a deadline day. And actually, when Fowler signed back, it wasn't even a thing. It's only in the last sort of 10 years as opposed to being covering this like mad jokes. But you know what? Do you know it was a deadly deadline day? Remember Odin Wingy?
Oh yeah,
Odin Wingy. Do you remember he turned up a QPR's car park and everything? And
that's right. Yeah.
That's when you said Harry Redknapp, it made me think of that because it was the only kind of real insight into the madness that you get. Like everything else is just built up by Sky and big yellow banners. But Redknapp used to sit at the window and talk about money, the player was offered and give out figures. Like he was completely disclosing everything. And then you have Odin Wingy just turning up and saying to the security guard, like, let me in, I'm signing here, and all the confusion that went with it. Like it was proper wrestling shit.
And then someone shouting on about a fax machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The guy when the fax machine didn't work.
Was the purple dildo night? That was
Everton, wasn't it?
That was Everton, yeah. When they were winning the transfer window that summer as well.
Yeah. Some of the transfers that didn't happen were really interesting, weren't they? The Conor anchor one springs to mind. Where that one all fell through at the last minute.
But do you not think this death of transfer madness, the days of people doing no, it's the death of transfer madness. The days of everything being done on transfer deadline day has coincided with the fall of Sky Sports, because it was Soccer AM and it was Sky Sports News and it was Yellow Ticker and it was religious. They were the ones that would have the rumours and the breaking news. And that's no longer the case because most of the club journals are more clued in than what's going on. The stories break well before Sky ever get wind of it at this stage, and everyone sort of knows what deals are done before the deadline is even finished. There's very rarely a surprise deadline deal. Like, what was it? Was the one where Ericsson was meant to sign and like he didn't sign until 3:00 in the morning, or there was fellas having medicals the next day because the deal was agreed. But like that's all over. Like people don't sit up.
The prevalence of ITK is on Twitter.
Probably.
I know, I'm not being facetious saying that, but he generally seems to be more clued in than them fucking East and Sky.
Yeah, like you've got your man Thomas Partey. There will be a party in Arsenal tonight. He's. It seems to be they got that deal over the line, and Lucas Torreira has gone to Atletico the other way.
I have a bit of update here. United have signed Cavani, some guy called Teles, and another chap called Diallo. Don't know any of them.
Do you remember?
I thought Diallo was the fella who broke the Mane transfer to Liverpool.
Hold on, maybe I read that wrong. No, definitely.
Have you gone as an ITK to United? Is that now a transfer, is it?
Yeah. I don't know, Bill. I don't know. I only know Cavani out of them three.
Oh. Big lad. we are right in the absolute midst of the whole transfer deadline day coverage when Berbatov went to United. Do you remember they were outside and you could see him in the window in Old Trafford?
Yes.
You
Remember
know,
Tom Ince?
That was the weekend, Andy,
He
of the
was sitting in
Phil
KFC.
Jones transfer, because Kenny Dalglish believed he had Phil Jones done and dusted, and Alex Ferguson swooped to sign the future of the Man United defence for the next 10 years.
he swooped.
And he was right, and Ferguson was right. Look what Phil Jones brought to Man United after signing for them.
Probably better than what they've got there now, to be fair.
But do you remember feeling like shit when Berbatov went to United? I do. You know, looking back, I think it's strange. Like, he obviously had a good career at United. He done very well. But I remember looking at that and the coverage of that and being a bit jealous.
Yeah,
I
because
can identify that, Andy. I remember when United signed Varane, thinking, Jesus Christ, we are fucked now. A day I'm never going to be beaten ever again.
Yeah.
Hang on, lads. I just have to close the window here because the window is now slammed shut.
We didn't even do a countdown. It's the most pointless end to a transfer window anyway. So it seems that business can go on for another week.
Yeah.
Well, that's the international transfer window. The domestic.
What's the story with this Greek chap we signed? Where the fuck is he gone?
He's had coronavirus and then he got injured.
Has he, fuck?
Yeah.
He has played a couple of cup games, hasn't he?
Did he get it as well, yeah?
Yeah.
He did get a couple of games.
All right. There you go.
It's this 25 squad, by the way. That's
you can only name
thrown up by Super Tiger.
You can only name 25 in your Premier League squad after the transfer window's done. But you can name an infinite number of B players. So anyone that qualifies as a homegrown player would be excluded from the 25 squad, or anyone under 22 or something like that is excluded. But you have to have so many English-based players, 8 or something like that, within the squad of 25, which means you've only 17 spots for international-based players.
He's become very annoying, hasn't he? Darren Farley.
He was always very Andy. He was always very annoying. I know you liked him because you like these things because you're a happy, clappy man. But like honestly, he did one good impression of Carragher and one good impression of Gerrard, and he's lived off that for the best part of 10 years. And I saw he still existed. I thought he stopped existing, and he still exists. It's like when they roll out Rory Bremner now, and you're like, do you remember him? It's like he's in Neilo's kitchen.
He wasn't even good at impression. She was fucking shit. I remember Rennie told me she was fucking rubbish.
Ah, brutal.
I fucking hate magicians. Just as an aside, fucking creepy bastards.
You never know what you're going to get from Neilo, do you?
No, think about it.
It's a fairly major outburst against magicians.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, I don't mind saying it. I'll put it out there. Anyone that can kind of make you see things you're not seeing, they're slipping the hand as soon as you're asleep.
I would have understood clowns, but magicians are a bit rough, mate. Because there's lots of good magicians out there.
No, what about Paul Daniels?
My mate had a party magician that is young lads. Rondo, his name was. Rondo was fucking pissed, and he was entertaining kids. And I think if there was no adults in the room, the kids were finished.
Okay.
I said Rondo. That wasn't his actual name.
That's grand. That's leave your story at Rondo the magician.
Yeah, just leave it there. Yeah.
Leave it
wasn't
there.
on the agenda if anyone was. Didn't put magicians on the agenda. So look, we've
Wake up
done,
your underpants on backwards.
We've filled our allotted hour and an extra 3 minutes of magicians from Neilo. So unless anyone else has got anything, any hot takes since the transfer deadline window shut.
There's lads literally now freaking out that Arsenal have signed Thomas Partey.
Oh, I remember a really good transfer window end day.
Go on.
Do you remember we were saving Lamar and who else? Van Dijk for a big announcement day.
Big day. Club wants the big day.
Yeah, they didn't want to announce them until transfer deadline day so that they could have a big day, wasn't it?
That was amazing when we signed all them players that day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic.
The whole Van Dijk to Blackpool.
Come here, did Sancho sign for United? No,
it was never happening. I think Gav was pretty consistent on that. Never happening. Keith was
I'm heading over to watch Goldbridge having an absolute meltdown. Although he might be delighted that they signed Cavani, Torres.
Was that this Sancho at 120 million? Yeah.
Yeah, 120 million. They were old now for. Yeah.
Kev makes a good point. Is Bale the worst piece? It depends on what Spurs do. If Bale, Kane, and Son score the goals to get that Spurs back into the Champions League, then it's not the worst piece. It's actually
make no mistake. Gareth Bale is a super footballer.
The only problem is he's always injured.
Yeah.
Like he's just he's the Welsh Theo Walcott when it comes to injuries. Like he's constantly injured.
Well, he is Welsh.
Yep.
Oh, Theo Walcott's English, yeah.
Yeah, Theo Walcott's not Welsh.
Theo Walcott, he's shit.
Oh Jesus! Arsenal pulled the Torres deal.
Yeah.
Really, in the opposite direction, yeah.
Centre half, that's where.
No, he's like a midget defensive midfielder.
Always gets booked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Atletico fume because Arsenal pulled the Torres deal. I don't think Atletico can really fume if you pay a release fee. There's nothing you can do about it. It's hard. Like, don't put them in. If you don't want to sell the lads, don't put them in. Don't put release clauses in them. I think though in Spain it's a contractual thing. You have to put a release clause into a player contract or something.
Seems to be a prerequisite in Spain, already.
Put in like 700 million or something now. You know, but like where are we? Any news on?
There's a chap called Guendouzi there who's left Arsenal.
He's gone to Hertha Berlin. He's good friend with David Luiz.
Oh, that's fine.
So.
Sancho imminent for Liverpool in January, potentially.
Here we go. And that brings me back, Ray, to my fucking point. People talking about the January transfer window. They have no interest in the football that's coming up. It's just, will Sancho now sign for Liverpool? Because
that was Gav.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Gav, yeah.
Prick.
He might have been coerced by Grizz to put that in there.
Now they're saying Torreira deal went through.
He meant United.
Imminent for United.
Torreira's gone to United, is he? He got lost.
Before the madness goes into carnage, we're gonna sign off for the night. So we'll be back next week with an all-star cast.
What are we talking about next week? Well, I was going to talk about Lamar Miller being signed to the practice squad and the Bears releasing somebody else. Like, that's a transfer window move.
Honestly, I want to talk about the Cowboys.
Well, we can talk about the Cowboys next week. 500 yards of offense from Dak Prescott, and they still don't manage to win. Like, that's just outrageous.
All taking advantage.
I know, yeah. I'd say, especially in the accumulator, but like, honestly, not good.
Not good.
Not good.
Right. So a good night from Andy, a good night from Phil, a good night from Neilo. It was certainly a good night for Neilo. Good to have you back.
Very entertaining.
Supposedly, lads, while we were doing this, Stephen Donnelly was out saying that everything is all right between NFET and the government. At the exact same time, Leo was on prime time on RTE, absolutely destroying the chief medical officer. So I'm off to watch the fireworks. As I said to these lads, politics in pandemic times is a much better sport to follow than football. You don't even have to pick a team. You can just sit back and throw a few popcorns out there and watch what goes on.
The one thing I want to say before I end, imagine that meeting earlier, you know, Amy Ryan sitting in the car, but just shut up, Amy, will you?
Have you got a bike? Are you going to cycle around the table? Are you? I'll put a cycle lane around.
Dig in the face, Amy.
And on that note, we will leave you and we'll join you again next Monday for the forum.